And we are live. Welcome to the NFL First Look Week 7 edition, which I definitely didn't just learn. I am Josh Engleman, and normally you see me for a half hour going very quickly through a slate, kind of just telling you who all the chalk plays are until we get to 10 o'clock and turn it over to the deeper dive, but not so fast. We're adding a half hour, and by popular demand, Tim Quarterman's number one fan, Rihanna's number one fan, Chris Spags in the house. What's going on, Spags?
I'm excited to be here. I've been doing the last few weeks, been doing a lot of great things on the deeper dive alongside Loughy and Ben, bringing great information to people. And now you and I get to fill an hour here doing nonsense, barely wanting to talk about football. Josh, too excited about NBA. And I'm going to do it. I'm going to spill it right away. Jordan's got the poops already in the morning. It's 5:55 in the AM there. So he's really dealing with the insides, the gut busters that we all have to deal with after a tough weekend. So the most relatable content here in the world on Stochastic is Jordan having the poops.
Jordan, I'm going to need you to put your mic hot for everybody for this one. What did you eat at Chipotle that caused the damage?
I had a Chipotle bowl, and then I doubled up on the hot sauce. Don't ever do that.
Chipotle bowl doubled up on the hot sauce. I don't know if they heard it, so I'm repeating it for them because I don't trust you to let them hear it. So Chipotle bowl double up the hot sauce. Their hot sauce or like your own hot sauce?
No, their hot salsa. And I also had that vinaigrette dressing. I don't know if you've heard.
Oh, the vinaigrette's nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Was that yesterday? Last night?
Yeah, last night.
Okay. Well, that's a bummer. But
No
what are you going to do,
intended.
man? It's pretty commonplace. There's a reason there's a South Park episode about it.
Yes, indeed.
We can really filibuster at the beginning. I don't know what I'm going to do with this extra half hour because I've already proven that we can do this show in 30 minutes. It'll be fun.
The first look concept is looking at Jordan's toilet bowl. Is like that's what
God.
this is.
More brown? No, I'm not even going to make that joke. That's disgusting for everybody. It's 9 o'clock on the East Coast, 6 o'clock on the West Coast. I don't need to ask about what it looks like when it happens. That's too early, man. That's way too early. St. Stephen 68 said early fluff time. Yes, 30 more minutes of fluffing for the deeper dive show. That should be pretty fun. Everybody needs a little bit of extra fluffing. Sometimes when you get older, it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, look, you got to put your full energy into everything you do, whether that be fluffing, whether that be squeezing out the hot sauce you had the night before. That's all I could ever ask here on a stream and in general in life.
So, okay, before we get into this is an actual question. I'm going to say this. I mean it sincerely. Doesn't it take like how does that get to the bad part? Like, isn't it supposed to take longer to get through your stomach? Why does it happen so quickly for something like that?
I would imagine it's something high gastrointestinal index foods would be. Is that honestly, I didn't say it with enough conviction to really make that sound credible. I don't know. It's got to be the hot sauce part of it, or the ingredients that within the greasiness maybe slides through. I don't know. This is the longest intro talking about poop I think that the world has ever asked for.
I feel like I could, if I eat something, it takes the pain of hot sauce. It gets through a lot quicker than the food did.
Maybe because it probably speeds up your metabolism. I think because definitely things with capsaicin in it speed up your metabolism. I know that. Get
your gallbladder removed, then try Chipotle. Don't do that. Don't get your gallbladder removed.
I'll keep that. You need that.
Yeah. Snyder style. What's your favorite Taylor Swift song, chat? I don't think we're going to get a lot of answers from chat, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that you and I could give this answer.
I have to hear far too many of the songs, not by choice in my house, but I feel like Anti-Hero's okay. I don't mind.
Okay. You're not a fan?
It's not that I'm not a fan. It's that I have no choice but to not be a fan because it's like, when they had Saddam, like they were outside his house playing like 80s rock at high volume to like make him come out of the house. Like that's where we are with Taylor Swift in my house, where he was playing Shake It Off is what my son was born to 18 months ago. So I it's too much exposure to me where even if I liked the music, I can't enjoy it because of how much it just penetrates my brain.
I am a big fan of that 10-minute All Too Well version.
That's everybody's favorite. I feel like that's epic. The real like Swiftie diehard.
It's an epic track. It's an epic track. I mean, happy to go back to some of the goods from pre-aggressive fame. But
did you go to the Eras tour?
Sort of. I didn't attend the concert, but I went because my wife was going.
Okay. Wait, so you went and you stayed out in the parking lot and like listened to that?
No, well, technically I stayed in my bed because I had 104 fever in Vegas and it was really miserable. But no, Katie and one of her friends went to the concert. It was going to be myself and her friend's boyfriend just hanging out while they went to the show and, bouncing around Vegas, but I got sick. But I would have gone, but I wouldn't spend the money to go. Like I would have to get a free ticket to go.
Yeah, my wife Alex had one where she was like floor seats, and I think she'd bought the ticket for $1K, and it was available to sell for I think $8 to $10K, and she was like, probably not enough to justify it because relative to her fandom, which I get. If it's like $20K, I think that would have been the barrier.
The same group of people, same scenario is happening again, but Ireland in June, and they have floor seats for that one. I can't even imagine what you could sell those for, but I will just be knocking back Guinness pints and not worrying about it at all because I'm not going to that shit.
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable way to approach it. Hey Josh, let's talk some football or chat's gonna yell at us.
Yes. We're gonna put the Taylor Swift talk to bed. Shout out to OwnersBox for being the sponsor of this bad boy. Sometimes you just got to get the crowd a little bit more warmed up. 195 viewers, 26 likes. We're gonna start right there. That's not enough viewers, but I can't just make people appear. You guys are just going to appear over the next 50 minutes. But I can make you hit that like button. 26 is not nearly enough. That needs to be, now that we're going for the full hour and I brought along some pals for the show, we need to run that number up to close to 500 by the time we're done. So make sure you're hitting that like button now. We'll talk OwnersBox in a little bit. But first, it's time to get into the running backs for today. And I like to start these bad boys off in like looking at the chalk for what we have today. But I think we actually have to start in a slightly different way. I didn't see it yet, so I'm going to ask you if you've seen it. Have they added Darrell Henderson?
To the player pool?
Yes. FanDuel did.
I didn't get an email about it, so I presume they have not.
Okay.
Because they always email when they add something, because they added Hardman and they sent an email about that.
Right. Okay, so FanDuel has him. It's on the banner at the top of a contest if you click into it, but evidently he does not exist on DraftKings. I can't imagine they add him at this point, right?
No. Don't think
so we're going to treat him like he doesn't exist in terms of DraftKings conversation.
Yeah.
Pay attention to each site.
Okay, Royce Freeman is in there, yes. So Freeman's in there, but Henderson not.
I did see Henderson yards props earlier. Did not see them for anybody else. So take that for what it's worth. I just wanted to hit on that one because I know people are going to ask about him. If he's not on DraftKings, I don't really have anything to say. Don't play him, I guess.
Yeah, it is supposed to be Freeman and Henderson leading the backfield as the most recent report. Zach Evans, I know a guy that projections look pretty good for him. I would be less inclined to play him because I think you'll have people that are playing Zach Evans from hearing people talk about him earlier in the week. And now it seems like he's just like the pure backup to those two guys, Royce Freeman and Henderson.
Alrighty, so ignoring that scenario for right now, unless we hear something else, let's get into the running back situation for today. And I'm just going to go overall, who is the best running back on today's slate?
It's Kenneth Walker. I think this is the exact same spot we're in last week for Raheem Mostert, where I really think that Kenneth Walker could end up 40 to 50% owned. We have him a little bit lower than that, stochastic and across the industry as well. Just the play makes too much sense. Zach Charbonnet out. It's literally the exact same situation as last week where you had Mostert, no Achane, really good matchup against Carolina. This spot, it's Walker, really good matchup against Arizona. Tons of red zone work for him, over 5 red zone touches a game. I don't know how you fade Walker. I think the move is either you play 0, you play 75%, maybe 66%. But it's, you got to be over, you got to be under, because I think the field's going to really be there pretty much even more than expected.
Yeah, I ran my everything as if, lock we're about to be right now. I ended up with 63%. He's going to have heavy ownership, and he should. He's, I think, pretty clearly the best play. And I'm going to say this again. I said it last week. I've tweeted it for 2 straight weeks, I believe. Don't worry about the individual ownership on any single player. If you want to build positive ROI lineups, you can build 150 with Kenneth Walker, and you can build 0 with Kenneth Walker. One individual guy is not what makes your lineup. So don't stress about ownership in that way. Only person that's going to do that is Jesse. So shout out to Jesse. We'll see those tweets a little bit later whenever Kenneth Walker inevitably scores. But then we'll move it on, because I don't really think there's much to talk about here. He is aggressively owned and should be. But we have a couple other guys that are going to be pulling some ownership. Josh Jacobs, Jahmyr Gibbs, Pacheco, Jerome Ford, Who else stands out to you at the top? So I think Kenneth Walker is like the first guy that you're putting into a cash lineup as a running back. Who else do you have your eye on as guys that you just, I don't want to say you don't feel like they're going to fail. That is not what the NFL is at all. But guys that you expect to be exposed to heavily, or at least the public heavily.
I think for me, one guy that I'm going to push towards a little bit more, which I don't think you mentioned in that group, is Saquon Barkley. I think this is a pretty strong match for him going against Washington. We saw Washington get cut up pretty bad last week by Ritter and that double stack with Atlanta. This week, Daniel Jones seeming like he's not going to go. Get Tyrod Taylor out there. You could certainly, I guess, force your way to a Tyrod stack. But this to me is the kind of game where on the year, the Commanders' worst run defense in the league, according to expected points added metrics, which I use a lot of in my process from Sports Info Solutions. And basically, 0.07 EPA per rush. That means they're giving up 0.07 extra expected points added every time that somebody's running the ball against them. So for a guy like Saquon, who's not that efficient, but can get you 20 to 25 touches, I think he's a really strong play at a less ownership that he might normally have because he just hasn't been that great this year, obviously being banged up too. But he's the one that stands out most to me. And a fellow Josh Jacobs, I think, interesting play, especially if you're not going to Devontae Adams. I think Adams is the squeakiest wheel we've probably seen in fantasy in a while in terms of what he's putting out there, how he's played the last few weeks as well. Pretty low motivation on those routes. But if Adams doesn't get there, or even if Adams does, Josh Jacobs probably gets there too, or has a shot to get there. So for Jacobs, I think he's a strong play too. But the lower ownership on Barkley, I think, kind of interesting because he could put up 30 today and it wouldn't shock me.
Yeah, Jacobs right now, second in our ownership projections behind Kenneth Walker by a pretty sizable margin, at least. Barkley in an interesting salary tier, $500 cheaper than Austin Eckler, $700 more expensive than Josh Jacobs. There's just sort of like no one really around him. Everything is, you get to 7K and all of a sudden it's just a bunch of dudes. But in that area, he is uniquely different in that, like, you can end up with a bunch of salary left over if you have him, or you're paying up that extra 700 to basically like get right to 50K if you want to switch from, say, Josh Jacobs to Barkley. I like that shout. Hadn't looked at him like that earlier today. I'm like basically neutral to the field on him on my first run, but I think that, like, on paper, if you just look at that game, I do think it looks pretty good for Barkley.
Yeah, and under 10% ownership too. And like you talked about, like if you're playing Kenneth Walker, I think if you're playing Walker with Jacobs, you got to then have a really unique stack with it. If you're playing, Walker with, I think Pacheco, Gibbs, really like those guys, you have to really find ways to get unique. If you do just play Walker and Barkley, I think carving up that much salary at the running back position is going to be pretty rare, I think, in this build. People probably going Jerome Ford a little bit more with Kareem Hunt potentially banged up, not able to go today. So I think there's a lot of ways that the field is going to really define itself by what it plays with Walker. And there's a lot, I think Barkley to me is the most live to get different, but there's a few guys you can get different with if you want to pair him with Walker.
6,300 for Jahmyr Gibbs, 6,100 for Isaiah Pacheco. Both guys look to be pulling a little bit of ownership. Gibbs at 17, Pacheco at 19. Do you have anything that splits the difference between those two?
I think I would prefer Pacheco just because of the fact that we have seen a little bit of reluctance by Detroit to give Jahmyr Gibbs those red zone touches. Craig Reynolds actually has gotten them so far this year. I think to me, that's sort of the tiebreaker, along with the fact that the Chargers defense on the year just not as good as really anything, but especially through the pass game. But Pacheco's out there a lot. He's clearly earned this lead back role where he is getting routes per game. He is getting red zone touches at a pretty high level. So I think for Pacheco, that's what stands out the most. Whereas Gibbs is kind of a mystery box, but he is a mystery box going against a team, the Ravens, that for the most part does everything pretty well, especially stops the run well enough. So Pacheco, better game environment. I think maybe a little more secure role, at least in the red zone. For me, that would put Pacheco, I think, as being a substantially better player than Gibbs. But Gibbs is so talented. Like, I'm not going to fault anybody going there, but I would much rather play Pacheco, I think.
Pacheco in 31% of my lineups, Jahmyr Gibbs in 21% of my lineups. So we are on the same page there. I'm going to keep working my way down to some of the guys that are pulling some ownership. Looks like we've got Rachaad White at about 17%. We've got Jerome Ford at 13%. So that's two guys right away. Same exact price point, 5,100, both pulling double digits in ownership. Same question that we just did. Ford at 5,100, White at 5,100. Who do you lean to?
I think I would go Jerome Ford's way. I had some concerns about him heading into this week where he was coming up a lot in the Sims earlier in the week. But this matchup where if you're not going to have Kareem Hunt, be able to go potentially at all today, they did call up Deion Jackson, put him on the active roster. So Deion, certainly a revenge game in mind for Deion today, potentially. But it is, I know the chat loves a revenge game. So if you want revenge, Deion Jackson's the way to go. But Ford, the usage has been there a little bit honestly, the usage in the red zone, not fantastic, but I think having Kareem Hunt out of the picture at least consolidates that a little bit more. So I get it with Ford. I think he's a strong play. I worry about the chalkiness of him. Out across the industry, he's projected for upwards of 25% ownership, which could be a lot of Ford out there, but I get it with the price point. I think he's a pretty strong play, and I wouldn't really go further than that.
Final guy that we have to talk about at running back that is in double digits of ownership is the, I guess, primary pay down option, $4,800 Dante Foreman. Looks like he's at about 11% ownership right now. Is that the floor for you for pay downs with any sort of volume? Do you like him? Do you have somebody else?
It's hard to like him just because of the effect of having Tyson Bagent out there. Like, you got to assume that they're going to see a little more 8-man boxes. The one thing you might try to stop would be Foreman, I guess. I mean, DJ Moore's put up some good games, but I just don't think Bagent can get the ball out there to him in a meaningful enough way like Justin Fields has. And maybe that could be wrong because Bagent was a really strong player in college, granted not at the highest levels, was pretty accurate, pretty good at throwing touchdowns as well. So maybe he can feed more a little bit more. But I think the expectation would be that they kind of crush in to stop Foreman on this one. And for that matchup too, it's like, it's going to be an ugly one. Foreman can get there. I'll have some exposure. I think the Sims have me at 22%. So right now pushing me towards double the field. I think getting a little bit more than like 1.5x the field feels about right for me. But a better matchup, I guess, than it would have been for Foreman if Fields were in. Like, if Fields is in there, obviously he's going to suck away some of that red zone work for Bagent. They probably don't want to have the ball in his hands that much. So probably a lot of touches for Foreman, but not the most efficient ones coming up today.
Yeah, they are not good.
Yeah. Going out on a limb with that one.
No, I mean, if you just look at the Bears players, if you just like close your eyes a little bit when you get to DJ Moore, it starts to look really gross for every other name that pops up.
Yeah, like Tyler Scott has a projection on him this week. He's an interesting player, but not running a lot of routes, and the Bears don't want to pass too much. This game could be a little more fun just because having Tyson Bagent out there, like, he is kind of a fun player in the way some of these, backup guys who have a tattoo sleeve are fun. I think that's where the Tyson Bagent stands out as fun. But it's just an ugly game. And I'd rather have the running back on the other side. And usually both running backs in a game are not the most likely to get there. So I'd prefer Jacobs, but Foreman's there.
I just feel like I'm in like my 12th season of a Madden franchise. And like all of those names are all just like remade new creative players other than DJ Moore.
Tyson Bagent definitely does have some creative player vibes. Like, he's got like a few good attributes, but isn't like good as a whole, and is going to absolutely kill you if you played an entire season simming with him. So yeah, that's Tyson Bagent ball.
He went to like Eastern Mississippi State College or something, like one of those like made up universities too.
I think that's where he went to somewhere bullshitty. I forget what school he went to, but it's like, I think it was pretty sure it was a nothing school. Oh, there we go. So yeah, that is absolutely a fake name. That's like one of those schools named for like one rich guy, which you could never trust.
Shepherd University, the Shepherd Rams. Huh, interesting. That must have been thrilling.
He's a West Virginia guy, so he's tough. He's built different. Probably got a pickup truck.
He's probably built out of like painkillers.
The opioid epidemic is no joke.
It's big in West Virginia. That's a popular thing. No. I think it's like the most popular per the documentaries that I've watched, per capita, at least. All right, let's go to the top of running back. We're going to obviously spend more time on running back and wide receiver because I don't think that anybody cares about our thoughts on defenses. So at the top of the running back tier today, 8,600 for Austin Ekeler. How's that look to you? Because I think he's just like totally fine. He deserves the price tag, looks okay. Around 10% of him seems about right.
Yeah, the usage is there for him. 6 red zone touches a game. He's only played 2 games, obviously, so that could certainly come down. But that'd put him at one of the best marks in the league. 3.5 intended touches per game inside the 5-yard line. So the workload's there. High total here, the highest total of the week, one of them. And this game with 47.5 implied points. So the logic for Ekeler is pretty strong. I do think that just because this game, because of this matchup, because it also is that, that late afternoon hammer game, I think that we'll see a little more ownership going here, just because of the fact that it's, again, it's a sexy AFC game, AFC West shootout kind of game. I think people want to go there. So that could maybe scare me off of Ekeler a little, but if he's going to hold it under 10%, like, I think that's pretty good ownership. You're getting leverage on a higher owned Keenan Allen, higher owned Josh Palmer, potentially. So Ekeler makes sense. I'd still prefer a little bit cheaper going to Saquon. And I think in this game, I'd actually prefer Pacheco relative to salary, but the ceiling for Ekeler, it's like kind of hard to ever ignore.
Okay. I think you're going to just prefer Barkley to this question, but I do think it's interesting to see Josh Jacobs, 20% owned, 7,400. Kenneth Walker, 28% owned, 7K. Bijan Robinson is just sitting in the middle of those guys at 70. He's the meat of this sandwich, 7,300, 10% owned. So half of Jacobs and basically a third of Walker. How do you feel about Robinson? Are you looking at him at all, or are you already sort of just thinking, I'm going to have to find $800 more for Saquon Barkley?
I wouldn't mind getting to him, but the Sims definitely didn't push me there that much.
Same.
The projection, 14.5 from Stochastic, not the strongest for him. I think that kind of speaks to the lack of red zone opportunity he's had, where he's still getting 1.8 red zone touches a game. Tyler Algier still at 2.5. I think it's just hard for him to hit the ceiling that he's actually capable of talent-wise because of the workload, because of the fact that Algier is just taking away just enough touches every game, 14.2 intended touches per game compared to 18.7 for Bijan. So for me, it's like he's one of those guys where I'm happy to get to here and there. I just don't know that I want to go out of my way expecting him to be the guy that gives you 30 today or gives you 40 today. So I think that's where I usually fall with Bijan. And this matchup against Tampa Bay, not a terrible one, but not a great one either. Negative 0.13 EPA per rush allowed, 18% stuffed run rate. Like, these are pretty solid metrics. Not the Bucs defense of old that used to shut down every running back, but I think good enough in a low total game too. Like, I don't think Bijan's the prettiest play where I'd be drawn to, really go over the field on that.
Okay. Final question for running back is going to be a pretty wide one. I'm just going to throw it to you here. We've talked about every running back that is in double digits in ownership. Who do you see as the flyers that you want to get to? Who are basically the Spags plays for today? Maybe the public's not there, the stands that you're going to take.
I think for running back, I would say Saquon is probably the biggest one that I'm going to probably drill in the most. I think besides that, Aaron Jones is a pretty good spot, but that's me is more of going to be a little bit of a way to benefit if I do not get right my QB and wide receiver plays, because I'm heavy in the bag for Jordan Love and Christian Watson combined, as well as Luke Musgrave, who I think is probably the best projection plus Sims play. But Aaron Jones coming off the hamstring again. Apparently it was possible that he didn't play again this week, which is not the best sign for him in the world. But this matchup against Denver, Denver's so bad against everything, really bad against motion, which is something that it's part of what allowed them to give up at 70 points to Miami the other week, was just that they could not defend the motion plays. Can't figure out what's happening when guys are moving around. And we do see Green Bay use a lot of motion to get guys into space. So I think for them, it's a pretty tough matchup overall, and one that somebody from the Packers, I think, makes a winning lineup this weekend. Who it is, we'll see. I prefer it to be Watson or Musgrave, but Aaron Jones, I think, pretty much right there. And he should also really take a role from A.J. Dillon right away, because Dillon's been so inefficient, so kind of dusty, even though he's 26 years old. For Aaron Jones, at least he's still got juice in the pass game. And I think if he gets out there in the pass game against Denver, he can actually put up a slate-breaking kind of score.
I don't have anybody to add to this. I'm just very heavy on all things chalk running backs. So as I look at it, like, I'm 2% over on Austin Eckler. I'm a little bit over on Aaron Jones, same situation, but it's just a lot of Jacobs, Walker, Gibbs, Pacheco, Ford, White. I don't try to reinvent the wheel at running back. If you're not getting a ton of ownership at running back, you either need to be a home run threat, some sort of like aggressive pass target threat, or it's just not going to be that kind of guy. I'd rather go to wild card wide receivers instead. I'd rather bet on the dudes that I know are going to get the work at running back. So I don't have anybody else that I really need to touch on here. Do you see anybody that we missed?
I think with Zach Evans not being quite as in play, I mean, I don't think you have to get leverage against the 4K salary there, but somebody had flagged to me in our Splash Play Discord about Latavius Murray and about him maybe being an interesting play at a pretty cheap salary. No Damian Harris this week. Obviously, we have seen Latavius Murray get a little bit more goal line work against the New England team that you're probably expecting Buffalo to have to put up touchdowns and sort of grind it out fashion rather than get these easy ones downfield that they've gotten recently. So I could see the logic in taking a Latavius Murray flyer, but we're talking about like really, kind of micro outcomes for that one. I feel like that's like a 5% play. Najee Harris, I feel like makes the Vegas bit of sense, but the Sims not putting me there. And I don't want to be the one who dies on the hill of Najee Harris. So I think those two guys are the two that have like the Vegas level of interest to me, but that's probably about it.
All righty, folks. 813 of you in the house now, 94 likes. Now we're starting to build up. People are going to start showing up now, thinking they're going to get fluffed at 9:30. You could have got fluffed 27 minutes ago. Hit that like button. Here is the schedule for the rest of the day. Obviously, we are here. We're going to take you all the way up until 10 o'clock. Then you will get the NFL Deeper Dive from 10 until 11:30. It's going to be Loughy and Ben breaking it all down. Just a two-man booth. Then at 11:30, it turns over to NFL Live Before Lock for the final 90 minutes. Eric Lindquist, Matt Gajewski, taking you all the way up until 1 p.m. But we don't stop there, folks. 7:15 Eastern time today. EMAC, Neil, Sunday Night Football live before lock. They'll take you all the way up until 8:20 and kick off for Sunday night. It's a great day of NFL, man. And it's the last day that they're going to have nobody else on their corner. NBA fast approaching, 2 days. Can't wait. Oh, I'm so excited. It's going to be so good. It's going to be a great season, I think. So many good storylines, such great balance. Love it.
Yeah, a lot of fun movement. The NBA, I think, does the job well, but the NFL, it's nice to have both. I think that's the main thing. It's hard to do the left brain, right brain, having both sports going at the same time, but it actually is worth it. Like Sunday Night Football, probably the best Sunday Night Football game we've got this year. If might get the rest of the year as well, and then good NBA games as well. So like hopefully both leagues actually bring it instead of giving us more Jags Saints kind of bullshit.
Race fan hit us with the super chat. Heavy on Lamar and Andrews today. Thoughts? So we'll take that first part now. How do you feel about Lamar and Mark Andrews? I assume it's just like, it's Lamar and Mark Andrews. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I don't hate it either. I mean, I think it's some Lamar coming up at the Sims. I get the logic there. Zay Flowers actually coming up the most, though. He's also projecting for a good amount of ownership, and I don't feel that strongly about the play. I guess the main logic to this game would be that Baltimore has to score a little bit because of how efficient Detroit's been, but I kind of think this one goes a little more defensively minded, so I'm not dying to be here. It feels to me like kind of both teams ebbing towards a little more defensively sound than they might have appeared in the offseason, including Detroit. Like Detroit pretty much solid everywhere. Ravens defense has covered up a lot of weaknesses. They were one of the worst teams at defending the deep ball in terms of throws of 20 plus air yards last year. This year, they're one of the best ones, minus 0.55 EPA on those throws. So actively taking value away from attacking downfield. Both teams good against motion, both teams good against play action. Not any sort of obvious deficiencies that you would try to target in this game in terms of the analytic level. So projection wise, I get getting to Lamar and those guys, but like it's not any better than any other spot of the slate. And there's going to be a lot of ownership going to Zay Flowers, it looks like.
Yeah, I have 5% of Lamar, 7 of Mark Andrews. With their talent, they're never off the board unless it's just wild price issues. So they're fine, but I don't see them as anything standout.
Yeah, I think their upside is just that they can be a top 5 scorer at their position, and that's it. But I think the matchup is not going to be the thing where you're like, this is a home run spot when there are a couple like real home run spots defensively.
Follow up to that one, the second part of the question from Race Fan. How much Jackson, Smith, and Jigba do you want if Metcalf is out?
If he's out, I think it makes sense to certainly go a little bit more there. I think the biggest inhibitor to Smith and Jigba's production, well, 2 inhibitors, is that one, they're using him like he's Rondale Moore, and they're giving him basically like 1 air yard kind of per target throws, which are not the best way to use him when he was a guy that got open really well downfield out of the slot. But I think JSN, he makes a lot of sense. I guess if the ownership were to steam up quite a bit, if we knew that Metcalf were out with some notice, then that would be the thing that kind of makes it less appealing. But if Metcalf is out, Smith and Jigba has to take a lead in terms of the role and the opportunity he's been getting and just get more routes. Only playing 37 snaps per game. We're to 51 per game for Metcalf, 52.6 per game for Tyler Lockett. So I see the logic. I don't know that it makes him like a smash play at 3,900, but definitely a guy I think that kind of moves to that the Khalif Raymond, Wan'Dale Robinson tier from a couple weeks ago, where it's like these guys are probably the best value on the slate, but if everybody goes there, you don't want to be there too heavy.
There we go. So thanks for that super chat. Now we're going to get into the wide receivers, and I find this to be basically the most difficult thing to talk about for today. If you look at ownership, the 6th highest the 6th most expensive guys on the slate: Kupp, Diggs, Allen, Adams, St. Brown, Nakua. All double-digit ownership from 11 to 18%. That's all, basically the same. The highest owned guy is in that range at Keenan Allen at 18%. No one is breaking free from the pack here from an ownership standpoint. You can, I don't like saying it this way, but you can kind of do what you want. There isn't any ownership today that I see that is prohibitive, other than maybe Zay Flowers, which we could talk about in a little. But I don't even think that that's all that prohibitive. So I'm just going to ask you, because I don't really think I know the answer to this one. Who's the first wide receiver that goes into a cash lineup?
Cash lineup, I think it's got to be Allen because of the salary and it's just being a little bit cheaper than Kupp, but giving you a similar range of outcomes. So I think that's probably Allen, but you could make a case for Kupp too, and I think that wouldn't be too crazy. It's just a lot of money to spend a receiver in a cash lineup to go to Kupp.
Yeah, like Kupp, 18% owned, Diggs, 16, Allen, 18. You lighten it up a little bit for Devontae Adams at 11, but then it's St. Brown at 16, Puka at 14. I don't really know how to sift through some of these guys. I'm getting stands on them, but it's not as if those things are happening because I've got giant preferences. I'm getting to more St. Brown than anybody else in this range, but the top of wide receiver and getting that top section right seems very, very difficult today.
Yeah, I think it's just about, I'm trying to think what the best analogy is. Like there was a couple of weeks ago where Justin Jefferson was really highly owned and Tyreek had the really good day. I think that was the week that they played the Broncos. And it was like, if you go to Tyreek, that's your one way to get less ownership and give yourself a similar range of outcomes. And I kind of think that's what it is today, where if you're not playing Allen and Kupp, you have to play somebody that can give you that 30, 40 fantasy point ceiling. And to me, the most obvious guy is Davante Adams, just because, again, it's like he's a very squeaky wheel. We have a professional QB throwing some in Brian Hoyer. It's not a rookie like Aiden O'Connell and Jimmy G, who seems to maybe not vibe the same way with Davante Adams as Derek Carr did. So for me, Davante Adams, I think this is like a major shit or get off the pot kind of week for Davante Adams, where I think if he doesn't have a big game this week, I don't think he has another big game in a Raiders uniform, because he's just been playing so lethargically out there, and he's had a shoulder injury. He's obviously not getting targeted as much as he would like. But the eye test has not been great for him. The data also, like per target efficiency, coming down every single week over the last month, basically. That said, like he's playing against the Bears, who's a really bad defense, like not the worst defense in the league, but bottom 3. And I think this is the week for me where Adams, people are probably off the scent a little bit because the box score has been bad the last 2 weeks, and we're mediocre the third week out of that 3. I think Adams has a smash spot here, and I think if he doesn't go off, like I just don't think he's going off as a Raider again. So I like playing those kind of spots where it's like, okay, he's bad for a couple weeks. This is a make or break situation. Adams to me really stands out because of that. And you save $400 on Keenan Allen, save $1,300 on Cooper Kupp, and you have a similar range of outcomes. So that's the play that I would choose out of that group.
All righty. Yeah, St. Brown is the guy that I'm getting to the most right now. But as I look at it, it is just you kind of just get what, like, you can make a case for anything. If you want to just pop one of those 6 guys into a lineup, it's a really easy place to start. And then you work your way down. And from Amari Cooper at 6,100 to Marquise Brown at 5,300, so an $800 range, we have another 6 wide receivers in double-digit ownership. That's Cooper, Lockett, Flowers, Watson, McLaurin, Brown. I gave you a bunch of names in that range. I assume one of them stood out to you. Who is the guy in that range that you like in the same way that we just talked about the top?
The one to really watch out for is going to be Tyler Lockett, because if Metcalf is out, I have to imagine that Lockett gets steamed up exponentially. So I would definitely be mindful of that. And even if Metcalf ends up playing, like I think Metcalf is an interesting tournament play if he does get in, because he's now going to have the steam downward, and there still could be some people vestigially holding on to lineups that have Tyler Lockett in it. So he's a guy I think is a very solid play, but he's the one that I'm kind of the most anxious about where he could end up ownership wise. The best play to me is Christian Watson, though. Christian Watson, I think we've seen the upside here. We saw the 70-yard pass in that Raiders game. This is the matchup where if Christian Watson's going to go for 150 yards, 2 touchdowns on 5 to 10 targets, like this is it today against Denver. And Denver, I know, has shown some signs of life. I think that's more the matchup the last couple of weeks. They still numerically one of the worst teams in football. And it's actually worth calling out their numbers directly because it's just so bad. 0.21 EPA per dropback, 0.24 EPA per pass, 1.14 EPA allowed on throws to 20 plus yards, 0.3 EPA against play action, 0.22 EPA against motion pass attempts, 0.2 EPA against motion run attempts. They're bad against everything. So if there is a week where Jordan Love and Christian Watson can be the players that I thought they would be in the offseason, I think this is it. So might be me chasing bags that I've already lost money on. I think that's sometimes how it goes with best ball, but I love these guys. And I think this is a spot where if they're both going to be, Watson 10%ish, I think I'm going to have 2 to 3x field of that, just because I believe in the talent, and this price tag 5,600. Like I think he's 7K by the end of the season.
Yeah, I've got 12% right now. Happy to have him. Wouldn't mind if that went up, because I do think the game looks really good for him. What pay down options do you have your eye on? Is it Elijah Moore at 4,200, Curtis Samuel at 4K, Wan'Dale Robinson at 3,800? Hate him. Are you going even further down to Rondale Moore? What do you see as the, I don't want to say premier pay down options, because I don't want to give those guys that kind of word, but who do you think you'll be spending down at for wide receiver?
I do think that Wan'Dale's an interesting play. Again, the Commanders D, not to attack poor Josh's beloved team that he lives and dies by every single week. the Commanders D is just really ripe to attack. And I think that was something where that was what stood out with me about Ritter last week. And Ritter had, a Millie Maker winning week, wasn't great, but still was great by Desmond Ritter standards, I would say. So to me, Wandale, I think, kind of similar opportunity. It's been getting bigger by the week. Tyrod Taylor, I think if he's out there, certainly a guy that can get the ball where it needs to get for Wandale at 3,800. He would be the value play that I'm most intrigued by, but Deontay Johnson at 5K, not that bad. Marquise Brown at 5,300. I think a very good game script for him. I get the ownership going there. But obviously, it's a little bit less of a pay down, more of that previous price here Josh was talking about. But I think Wandale's the best value. Curtis Samuel, to me, a little chasey to go to Curtis Samuel after we had the big game last week. And we know Jahan Dotson's due. If ever there were a week to play Jahan Dotson, this is probably it, where everybody's crapping on him. He's had a terrible run of 6 weeks to start the season, and then he's also a holder for field goals in practice that everybody's making fun of. So I would play a guy like Jahan Dotson over Curtis Samuel. If Curtis Samuel gets chalky because he just had a good game last week, I think that would be one of the larger mistakes on the slate.
Marquise Brown is my current most exposed wide receiver. Did not see that one coming.
Let's get to
prior to sitting down. Yeah. 5,300. I like the price tag. I think a lot of it has to do with I think it's kind of easy to get to Geno Smith or Josh Dobbs. I obviously have a ton of Walker, so that's just pulling that game in a little bit. The Lockett, Metcalf, Smith, and Jigba situation is probably going to pull more ownership. So I think that game and that core is going to start looking kind of interesting if we end up getting Metcalf out.
Yeah, no, I think Marquise Brown, a great price point. The usage has been there for him, getting used more in the red zone this year as well. Definitely a lot of ways. And, Josh Dobbs is not going to keep this job for very long, but him having one more good game here to go, hey, I'm still here. I'm still a guy that is viable in the league. I think, this is a spot for Josh Dobbs, I think, to play a little bit above his head if he can. And if he is going to play above his head, Marquise Brown's probably the guy that benefits.
Anthony Masilli hit us with the super chat. Favorite 3 max stacks for FanDuel and DraftKings?
I mean, I think it would be the Packers for me, at least for DraftKings. For FanDuel, I'm not playing enough FanDuel to know the pricing offhand.
As I look at it, I'm just trying to think about the teams that I have the most of that aren't based on running back exposure. I mean, Detroit, for me, I'm going to have a lot of St. Brown and Laporta. So I don't mind doubling up those two with Goff if you want to at no ownership. I think my Commanders, man, I just really hate saying that. And not because they're the team that I like. Just that's not the word I want to use. Sam Howell, McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, even Logan Thomas to a degree. He's pulling a couple percentage points of ownership. That's not sexy. Deshaun Watson, Cooper, Elijah Moore, another one that's pulling some ownership. It might not be the most fun thing in the world to do. I don't know what to make of Deshaun Watson at this point. Herbert Allen Palmer, I think, works pretty well. If you want to add in Eckler, you're not going to feel too bad there. There's just some of them that I'm seeing where I have double digits of 2 pass catchers. And then at that point, I'm happy to bring a quarterback along for the ride.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the Love Watson Musgrave is the one that I'll be plugging in everywhere that I can. Yeah. All
right. At wideout, who are some of the names that we haven't talked about? Because there's a lot of guys that you can get sub 10% ownership today. Who stands out? Who are the sneak plays from Chris Spags today?
I think the JSN one is still kind of sneaky just because of the fact that right now protect for 7% ownership. And if you just go with it for now, you might end up getting really lucky if Metcalf does get rolled out. Obviously, you could be left holding the bag as well. Rashee Rice and Kadarius Toney, I think, are 2 similar plays. Both guys projected for not a lot of ownership, under 6%. Rashee Rice's route should be on the way up with Justin Watson out, but you could also see Kadarius Toney benefit. I think you don't have to play these guys together unless you're playing Mahomes, but I think playing one or the other in a good amount of lineups is a pretty good move in a high total game. Gets a Chargers defense that is really bad against the pass. This could be Mahomes' best game, and you could see somebody like Rashee Rice or Kadarius Toney get 2 touchdowns and be that value play. So they're 2 that I think are pretty good. Don't mind Jaden Reed because of the Packers stuff, but I do think Jaden Reed snap count coming down enough that I'm not dying for him as part of my Packers stacks, but he'll definitely make some lineups for me there. And Dotson, I think I'm just going to flag Dotson again. It's just whenever a guy has this much bad going against him, nobody wants to play him. We do know he has a 20 fantasy point ceiling that he's shown in the past. I feel like Dotson to me, a $4,600 salary in a game environment where I think there can be a little more scoring on the Giants side, like we've talked about. I think that Dotson is worth a flyer or two just because there's nobody who's down worse right now in terms of the perception than Jahan Dotson.
I have 9% of Kadarius Toney right now, and I definitely don't like that.
he's involved. The snap share is good. Like, he's getting red zone targets. It's just that first game, if he had played well in that first game and if the knee stuff weren't there, I think that he would be on an upswing to a much larger role. But right now it's like all the heat's going Rashee Rice's way. So I think it's smart to get to Toney on a week where everybody's probably flocking to play Rashee Rice. Like, I think Rice being at 6% is a little bit of a surprise to me. I think he'd be closer to 10 to 15.
What do we know about Hardman?
I don't know if he's going to be active or not. I mean, it's sort of, I guess you'd expect him to be because he's in game shape and he doesn't know the offense. So it's certainly a possibility. And they have routes to go around with Justin Watson likely not going. So you could see him get out there and he would certainly hurt the Kadarius Toney kind of route tree potentially. So I don't know that you could play Hardman, but if he's active, I would maybe take a few shots. I think he's 3,200.
Like, obviously what I'm about to say works for every team in theory, but there are literally like 12 different touchdown pass catchers for the Chiefs, man. It sucks.
Yeah. The only thing that consolidates is Kelsey. And like, obviously you get why that is, but he's 8K this week. And I get paying for it in a week where people might do some guesswork at tight ends. But that's tough to pay, man, when there's really good running backs at that range, really good receivers at that range. And I don't know, maybe that's what makes Kelsey more of a smash play and might not be as owned as he probably should be.
Splash play? Is that what you said?
Yeah, so I think I said smash play, but yes, a splash play as well.
Oh, what's that?
Oh, it's a podcast that we do on YouTube. Really, it's just me doing it now, 5 days a week at 11 a.m. I guess I'm competing with the strategy show. So watch the strategy show, then go watch Splash Play. But yes, 5 days a week of me ranting about fantasy football, which I guess not that different from this show. I just don't have Josh to bounce off and talk about poop with.
That's a shame, right?
Yeah, it's the poop is what drives all the views and engagement. We all know that.
Actually, I think the poop is second. You know what drives all the views and engagement? OwnersBox, presenting sponsor of this show. If you would like to get 1 week of our NFL Sims package for free, and you should, because that'll cover today across FanDuel, DraftKings, OwnersBox, tonight, Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football. Yeah, you're going to get a lot of coverage for our brand new Sims package. You get it for a week if you sign up at OwnersBox using the link in the description or potentially in chat if it pops up. Got to deposit at least $10. My recommendation, put in at least 500 if you have it, because they're going to match that deposit up to 500. You get it in OwnersBox. I put this money in for the first week of the season, and I've been playing their main contest, which today is 100K total prize pool, 20K up top. I only have $27.50 left to clear of my OwnersBox. I'm going to clear a free $500 through 7 weeks of the NFL season. You can do the exact same thing by signing up. And it's a better system across the board because none of that defense garbage, no kickers around these parts. We got the super flex. It's the most fun way to play NFL DFS. Nobody likes seeing defenses score touchdowns and that be the way you win or lose. So they just get rid of it. And we've got the Sims on the site along with projections and ownership to get you set up. Hit the link in the description and go sign up and check out OwnersBox, guys. 20K to first. We've seen a bunch of overlay and reduced rake over the first couple weeks. Contest size is down to 7,777 entries, so it might be close, but it'll still be one of the better contests that you can get into. And if you win it against 7,000 people, you're not going to feel very bad getting $20,000 in your pocket. Come compete with me. I'm still taking that shot. I'm going to take that contest down before the season is over. I'm feeling really good about it. Hasn't happened yet, but I just need someone in the 4 o'clock games to not score 50 fantasy points like it has been for the past couple of weeks, and I'm going to be okay. Go sign up at OwnersBox and hit that like button. We're at 200 and something. For some reason, my screen isn't big enough. Let me widen that. 205. Oh, that was depressing. I really wanted that to be a bigger number. 205 is not enough, guys. Hit that like button. 1,550 people here. We should be well over 300 by now. Nicholas Lynn, super chat. Money hat, please. And thank you.
Is $2 enough to? I mean, I have one of the money hats. They're always over my shoulder. So if you ever want to see the rafter full of money hats, but I'll put the comedic hat on a hat here because Josh, I don't know if you see Stream Elements, of course, the stream tool that is in the YouTube chat, just randomly dropping in a quote from Josh Engleman on June 20th, 2023. What do you think his hammer is like? What?
Yes.
Why is Stream Elements doing that now?
Because Charles Moran, that's in there as exclamation point, Josh. I believe that's about Zion, but I have forgotten at this point. It is about Zion.
About too many hammers. You don't know which one it could have been.
I don't know how we got onto that, but it was definitely about his nether regions.
Nicholas Lynn, by the way, following it up, saying, no way that hat costs more than $2. I can tell you this hat, you could buy it on Amazon right now if you want. Search money hat, and you'll find some reviews that are like, nobody would ever wear this as a real hat. This is a fun costume hat, which is just bullshit. But you can find the hats on Amazon, and I believe they're like $20 each, maybe 20 to 30. So they actually very premium here, premium materials. If you really zoom in, look at those jewels, bestudded here, real diamonds. Josh.
Is that snake skin?
Yeah, it's like a snaky alligator leather kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Get behind the money hat here on the First Look show. Get behind Jordan's poop. Get behind the money hat. Get behind Zion's penis. All the three things.
Yeah. All right, let's zip through the three positions that matter a little bit less. Tight end, we have $8K Travis Kelce, and then we drop all the way down to $5,700 Mark Andrews. Luke Musgrave is pulling some ownership. David Njoku a little bit. Mark Andrews, obviously. Sam Laporta obviously looks interesting. Let's just do Kelce and then everybody else, since that's sort of the way that you need to talk about this. Kelce's going to be popular and should be. Do you have anything interesting to say about Travis Kelce?
Have you heard about who he's dating?
No, not once.
Because that's pretty interesting, isn't it? I think that's no, I don't believe it's a marketing contract. I think that's pretty interesting. I think they're in love. I think it's really great to see young love blossoming. I think that Travis Kelce shot his shot and was like, I didn't expect all this to happen. And now they're just in one of those 6-week relationships that you have as a real adult human being. And then now this is one that's there. So that's my interesting take. Travis Kelce, though, this is a great spot for him. I'll go on that limb as well. A very strong play for himself. I think that the tough part is just paying $8K for him, but I'm still getting about 32% exposure in the Sims. So Kelce, the way that you play Kelce and feel good about it is that knowing a lot of people are going to play Luke Musgrave, a lot of people are going to play Sam Laporta. David Njoku literally almost got burned alive a couple of weeks ago, and about 8% of the field is going to play him. So I think playing Travis Kelce has to make you feel pretty good about the situation, the ceiling, and all of that. It's just chalky as possible configuration, but it's clearly worth it, I think, for about a third of your lineups, whatever you're playing.
Right now, I've got a bunch of Kelce, 23%. I've got a lot of Laporta, also 23%. Any Sam Laporta thoughts that I should be worried about?
I like Laporta. I mean, I don't have any issue with him. He's just steady. The tough part about tight end is that it's just such an ugly position that getting 5 to 15 every week, I feel like it's just an okay range of outcomes. So in that front, Laporta's a very good player. Just getting that, not the greatest matchup on paper. Baltimore does defend tight ends pretty well. Negative 0.15 EPA per target allowed to them. But Laporta is getting enough volume. I don't hate it. I think Musgrave's in a better situation just because the matchup's a lot easier, and Musgrave's usage, I think, has been Laporta level, but obviously hasn't hit the same way. So I think that, to me, Laporta's perfectly fine. Like, all these guys are fine. It's just that Kelce is like worlds ahead. And if you can find that 8K, you pay for Kelce.
Yeah, Kelce's just not the same thing as everybody else. They're like they're not even. I don't. Like, he should just be a wide receiver. Honestly.
Yeah. I mean, he's more like a play like Keenan Allen than he is a play like any of these tight ends.
Yeah. Anybody? I mean, I think we know where this one is going, but your favorite tight end, Luke Musgrave?
Yeah, I think it's Musgrave. I do hate the projections are pushing you there so much because, like, Musgrave can give you 7.5 points today, and it just would not be that shocking. But I'm still willing to play the ceiling outcome here and hope that getting 2x the field will have a positive outcome, just because I really do believe in the talent of a guy who can get downfield, 6'6", 6'5" guy who's gigantic and really was targeted aggressively downfield at Oregon State. This year, the Packers not quite using him the same way, but he's very capable of getting down and breaking a slate in one play, kind of like Sam Laporta did a couple weeks ago. So I think for him, he's a really solid play, but any tight end you can play. Mayer, you could play. I wouldn't hate that. Michael Mayer on the upswing, 2,700, had 50% of the routes last week, finally took some roll away from Austin Hooper. I think if you're not playing Adams, you're not playing Jacobs, Mayer probably becomes a better tight end play by proxy.
Anything else you want to touch on at tight end?
It's just a bunch of dudes. Like, if you don't get Kelce, play whoever, really, for the most part. Like, I hate that that's the way it is, but if the Sims push you towards somebody, maybe don't heavy up 100% on them, but just be willing to take a smattering of guys, because you just have to find the one guy that gives you 19 points in a week that Kelce puts up 22, and that's enough to kind of keep you in range.
Agreed. Defense. The least interesting thing that anyone could ever talk about, but unfortunately, DraftKings makes us do it. Highest owned defense this week. The New York Giants, taking on my Commanders, 8.4%. They are the team that I have the most exposure to. Do you have anything interesting to say here? It seems like the Giants would be the cash defense, but do you have any defense takes?
I think the Patriots are kind of an interesting play. I'm getting them sim-wise, and I was putting them in hand-built stuff that I was trying to do earlier in the week as well. So just being that cheap, I think they're 2,100 is the price tag on them.
Yeah.
Going against the Buffalo D that can turn it over. We know Josh Allen has those issues. We also know Patriots, certainly no strangers to the Bills, have a lot of tape from their various matchups and some idea of how to stop them, whether they can or not. How they're playing this year, we'll find out. But the Patriots offense is terrible. The Patriots defense, I think, is still competitive enough that these guys can take one touchdown, and that's enough to make the entire day for them. So I think Patriots D is pretty good, but the rest of them, yeah, like it's pretty flat for me. I feel like nobody, the only one above 25% besides the Patriots for me right now would be the Giants at 26%.
I got a bunch of the Chiefs.
Yeah, I got that too. I got them at 10% in the stochastic sims.
I like the Patriots shout though. Like 2,100 is not the right price for what can be created for them. I understand why it's happening. Obviously, it's not like the best spot against the Bills, but it's all this is one pick six from Josh Allen early in the game, and all of a sudden it's just like, oh, cool, you just got a touchdown for a $2,100 defense.
Yeah, and it's also such a low total for Buffalo where it's, I don't think the expectation is that this game is going to be Buffalo at their best, but 23.8 implied points. Like, the only way this game stays competitive for New England is that defense doing something. So I think that's, there's everything aligns, I think, to play them at the cheapest price tag.
We close it out with quarterbacks, folks, which is basically just the bring along for the things you like at wide receiver and tight end. Highest owned quarterbacks, we've got 2 in double digits. That's Pat Mahomes and Geno Smith. If you're playing cash quarterback, likely Geno, but maybe Mahomes?
Probably Geno, I would think, because of the price.
I just wonder if, yeah, probably.
I'd be more inclined to play Kelsey in cash and Geno at the QB.
If Metcalf ends up out, then I think I'd feel a lot better about Geno, knowing that you're probably going to get $3,900 Jackson Smith and Jigba as like a point per dollar value option in the cash lineup, which also opens you up to having more money to get to Travis Kelce at tight end.
Yeah, I think that works. And Geno, I think, nice tournament play for QBs +2s, QBs +3s. I feel like a Geno QB +1. I don't know how that gets there to have the tournament winning upside.
Please give everybody your Jordan Love thoughts.
This is it for him. I think he's been, there's a lot of flaws. Like, I like playing guys when it's like, okay, you have to be good now or you're never going to be good kind of things. And for Jordan Love, highest air yards per attempt in the league, 9.110 at air yards per attempt right now, or at least on the slate. 56% catchable ball rate, though, is really bad. That is one of the worst marks in the league. So he is this classic boom bust player that you guys remember back a couple of years ago. One of the best things I've ever done content wise has been the rookie year of Josh Allen, exalting him as this guy that had a lot of fantasy things that were working for him. He threw a lot of deep shots, ran just enough. Jordan Love is a similar player. He's probably worse in terms of the pure metrics of it, where he's not as efficient, not as good at getting the ball where it needs to get. But this matchup for a man like Denver gives up an 86% catchable ball rate. Again, they're bad at every facet of defense. Jordan Love showed he was a 20 fantasy point a week guy, basically every game this year besides one. He can have a 30-point game here, and it would not shock me. So I think Jordan Love is a guy that deserves your attention this week. The field's going to be there less than 10%. I imagine I will get double that just because I think he can give you the ceiling. And if not, I will be crying into my lost DK funds.
Do you expect him to be your most exposed quarterback?
I don't think the data, I can say the Sims are not pushing me there, but I will force my way to him being my highest exposed quarterback. Yes.
I had a joke about forcing that I was going to make here, but my most exposed quarterback is Sam Howell. At not a lot of ownership. That is a direction that I am going.
I like that one. I mean, yeah, I think it's a good matchup for both sides in that game, even though obviously could be very ugly, bad teams, bad defenses. Sometimes the bad offense wins out in terms of just being shit. But that game live for a shootout in, Green Bay, Denver, I think 2 of those bad team matchups that are both live to have a lot of points put up.
Yeah, 20% of McLaurin and Samuel is helping me out there. And then, I'm getting to like Wan'Dale Robinson if I need to bring anything back. Josh Dobbs and Deshaun Watson. They are my 3 most exposed QBs for today. Don't like it at all.
Deshaun that's a weird play. Like, just what is going on there? I know he's, it's easy to pinpoint a lot of things that have gone wrong over the last few years, but like just him not practicing, then all of a sudden he's going and he's got the shoulder issue that we didn't know the details about. And it's a very weird situation, but Indianapolis gives up some of the most explosive plays in the league through the air. So I think it's a good matchup. It's just He has been really bad this year.
1,820 people in the house. We're just shy of 300 likes. So if you're here and you haven't done it, let's get us up over 300 before we turn it over to the NFL Deeper Dive. Final question for Spags. Anything we've missed? Anything you want to touch on? Anything you want to talk about? The floor is yours.
No, I mean, I think we covered this pretty well. I think the main thing is going to be, just really being mindful of where the chalk is concentrated in some of these games. Like, the Chargers, the fact that there's not going to be a lot of Eckler plays potentially, but a lot of Keenan Allen, a lot of Josh Palmer, I think makes that kind of play more interesting. But really, a couple key injuries that we have to watch out for. The DK Metcalf one could completely shift the slate in a way that I think is very important to keep an eye on. But again, I'm just... Go Green Bay. Go Pack. Go. Hey, go Cheeseheads. Let's go. We all are stock owners. We all own parts of the team. We love them. That's not a bad accent, right?
I have no idea. I don't think I've ever heard someone from Wisconsin speak.
Well, they're too busy with the cheese in their mouth.
I mean, cheese is delicious.
It is. I agree. I don't know that I would like it. Like, if I had to eat it as much as people in Green Bay eat it, I'd probably like cheese a little bit less.
I don't think that's true. I
would feel bad.
I don't know how they eat it.
They fry it. They eat it. They just eat the entire.
Like, are they just walking around taking blocks and
they're like a cartoon
taking chunks?
Just a big hunk with holes in it.
Yeah. I don't like what. I mean, look, they do fried cheese curds, I believe, and them shits are delicious.
Yeah, I agree they're good. It's just if you ate like that every day, like the stereotype is. I don't know if it's true. I haven't been there. It would be tough, man. Like I had McDonald's last night because we had a brunch and like the wife didn't want to get dinner. I was like, all right, fine, I'll get McDonald's at night. And
What'd you get?
And I'm feeling that. I'm not Jordan level, but I'm feeling that today. I can't imagine cheese curds how that'd be every day.
What'd you get?
Had a Big Mac, one burger, McFlurry, some nuggets.
Okay.
Just a vibe. Just a Saturday night vibe. Just hanging out, thinking about football.
Never had a Big Mac.
You've never had? That's insane. Big Macs are great.
I'll make it very easy for you on why I've never had a Big Mac. I don't fuck with vegetables. So lettuce out, tomato out, onions out. All of a sudden now I just have a double cheeseburger.
How do you not have scurvy? Do you eat fruit?
No. No, but that's an allergy problem. I would love to. It's not that I don't eat vegetables. I just don't eat them like that. Like I would eat a salad, but I don't want a salad on my burger.
It's not like it's loaded in. It's like a couple pieces of lettuce. It's not that.
Yeah.
Deep.
Why? How does that make the best part of the meal better? I've never understood it. I don't understand the appeal of lettuce. It's the dumbest food that exists to me. Because
you got the meat and then that breaks it up a little bit of brightness, a little bit of like, water kind of in there.
Yes. Add water to my burger. Exactly what I wanted. A product that is 99% water, 1% green.
Seems like somebody doesn't like sloppy steaks.
I don't even know what sloppy steaks are.
You know what I think you should leave?
No, I don't find that funny in any way.
I'm surprised by that. I think I felt that way when I first watched it, and then you stick with it and you keep watching. You would enjoy that show, I think, if you gave it enough time.
I tried. It's not for me. Didn't like him on SNL either.
Tim is he's a brilliant man, and I feel like
I understand that I'm in the minority. I understand I'm in the minority.
Yeah.
For that, I'm right about lettuce on a burger. That does not make it better.
The thing that exists everywhere across the country, the world.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I am. There's no chance that lettuce makes a burger better. No chance whatsoever. Raw onion, disgusting. Tomato, disgusting. Give me ketchup and bacon.
You want a little acid to cut through it. Whatever. You're
wrong about that shit. It's gross. Josh is wrong about lettuce. You're all wrong about everything. NFL Deeper Dive coming up next. We've got Dave Loughran, Ben Rasa breaking it all down. Let's get their thoughts on burgers when they get in the door. Don't go anywhere. Stay on this stream. We're here till 1 p.m. Shout out to OwnersBox. Good luck, everybody.
doesn't matter.
That's the problem. Well, that might be
what I mean.
That might be what Josh is saying, though. Is it?
I wasn't listening to.
Lettuce isn't helpful. It's not hurtful either. It's just.
So what's the difference?
Right. Well, the difference is, if it's not helpful, don't put it on.
I wouldn't. But if they're like, if the pre-made food comes with like lettuce, I'm not gonna be like, oh, no lettuce.
But I will take tomatoes off. Like, I don't like tomatoes.
I take them off. I just take all that stuff off.
That's what I mean.
Oh,
The caveat, though, is when it comes to lettuce, it can't be that like monster chunk of lettuce. It has to be a reasonably sized piece of lettuce. I don't want it flowing off the sides. I don't want it doubled over with that. That to me is over.
Where it's, I know what you mean. I just don't care. Just give me the pickles.
Hey, what's going on, guys? We're back. I missed you last week. Hopefully you guys had a wonderful week 6. We're back for week 7. It's the NFL Deeper Dive. I'm Dave Lockram. Glad to be back with Ben Rasa at JazzRaz DFS. The great outdoors explorer, I may refer to him as. No more jack of all trades master, but he is the great outdoors explorer. If you follow Ben on Twitter, you know he's been getting out in the wilderness. And by wilderness, I mean walking his sidewalk, giving out picks that seem to smash every time he does it. Follow me at Loughy_D on Twitter. Glad you guys are here. Hello, my good man.
Hello. So yeah, I got a little
hefty loan.
What'd you say?
What is your account number? 7? Try 8. 8? You can't treat people that way. You're not people. You're kids.
I don't know what that is from, and I'm not sure I want to know. What is that?
All right.
Someone in chat, you investigate that. I'm okay. I'm in a weird predicament. Every time I go outside and give a pick, it wins, but I simultaneously have a terrible college football week on the whole. So I have this weird thing where it's like, those are doing great, but my cards are not great. So we're going to turn around today. We're going to sync it all up. Maybe I'll go outside and just have the magic lineup.
Damn right, man. And there you go, Lance. Yeah, if we were your kids, we'd punish ourselves. Glad you guys are here. It seems as though you've never seen the 1994 Little Rascals.
No,
it's a good one.
Maybe at some point, but no, not really.
It's quality. Huh? I can't wait to show my daughter those movies like Sandlot, Little Rascals. Maybe I'll even show her for you, Jingle All the Way.
You should. You should lead with Jingle All the Way and Grandma's Boy, which I know you probably already showed her.
Yeah, I had her watching Bad Santa last year.
I'm sure you did.
Happy to have you guys here. Hey, looks like Josh and Spags did a decent job on the likes. If you've yet to do so, maybe you're just jumping in. Do us a single favor. Atone for your sins here on a Sunday. Man, I'm happy to be back. I missed you guys last week.
Yeah, we missed you. We held it down, but it was not the same without you. So I'm excited to get back into it.
Appreciate it. Yeah. Well, I missed you guys as well. I missed you guys too, watching the show. I didn't feel right. You know what I mean? But take a single second, atone for your sins here. Let's jump north of 500. God only knows what type of numbers we did last week. Let's reclaim that. Let's reclaim that good stuff here. And if you haven't done so, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate all you guys who have supported us along the way. It goes a long way for us, for sure. We got Live Before a Lock coming up after this. They're taking it all the way up to 1. Eric Lindquist, Matt Gajewski. Great crew there. But first, it's Ben Rasa and myself. All right, let's go, man. 10 games. Some of the totals have come up. Also, some of the weather that you and I had looked at earlier in the week, and it was pointed out. It doesn't, who the hell knows that early in the week? It was mostly wind. Looks like it's come down to a point that's not going to be massively concerning. I don't know. The New England game, the spread moved from 9 to 7.5, but it hasn't come through any key numbers. Is there anything that through the week since the last time you and I talked on Tuesday, you've seen reflected in the totals, reflected in the weather, reflected in injuries that's worth discussing out of the gate before we go game by game here?
Honestly, not really. I mean, we've had some clarification on a couple spots, but you know, I think always you want to look at what the lines are doing to gauge the importance. We can all have opinions on how important it is if this guy is ruled in or this guy is ruled out. If the books don't move the number or they move it a half a point, it probably isn't that big of a deal. And from what I've seen with a lot of these spots, they either shaded this to begin with and they had it already kind of implied, or it's just not that big a deal when we go around the league.
Yeah, you're exactly. nothing has moved enough for me to look at it with real concern. We've seen weather drop games by like 5-6 points in the total, just crazy stuff, before. Nothing going on like that today. Let's dive into it. Buffalo -7.5 against the New England Patriots. Again, this was at 9 earlier in the week, but 1.5 points from 9 to 7.5 isn't like a 7.5 to 6 or something. It's not even close. 40-point total. The Patriots, I was thinking the easiest way to describe the Patriots right now, is talentless. There's just very little talent there. And they have injuries to guys that are huge on the defensive side. That makes it even worse. Offensively, they've got nothing going on. Juju Smith-Schuster's not expected to play, but who gives a shit, right? I mean, Ramondre Stevenson's a nice player, but Mac Jones has been, a massive liability. Kendrick Bourne's essentially their number one in the passing game. On the other side, though, and we'll get to them, the Buffalo Bills, 7.5-point favorites, divisional spot, pretty solid total, of course. Most of the total in this game's going to Buffalo. When you're talking about the top tier quarterbacks on the slate, you have Allen, you have Diggs. Oh yeah, there it is. By the way, I told you I was going to share.
What happened?
This was way worse too. I wear in hockey, I wear youth large elbow pads, like kids large elbow pads, because I like the mobility. And we're in overtime, and I had a breakaway, and a dude just tripped took both of my legs out and went down.
You get a penalty shot?
It wasn't enough distance. But then I scored on a one-timer 20 seconds later to end it in overtime. So
there you go.
Yeah, nice. We got anyway. It hurts to put my arm down. But the top tier quarterbacks, you're talking Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. We can throw Lamar in there as well. Justin Herbert is up there in price, but he's going up against a good Chiefs defense. When you're looking at ownership on a guy like Josh Allen right now, compared to the other guys up top, and you're looking at this matchup against the Patriots team that has coughed up a lot of points to good offenses this season, where does Josh Allen come in for you? Because he's actually not that popular. And I don't know how much of that has to do with the stacks just being expensive if you're trying to get him with Diggs, but he's not that popular in our ownership projections.
No, he's not, which definitely gives me a little more interest. Having said that, I think part of the reason he's not that popular is because people are running into the same issues that I'm probably running into when I go to build. It's an expensive stack. It's a road divisional matchup. And there's just a lot of other spots that I want to pay up for, and there's some other quarterbacks. So he grades out, and Buffalo grades out decently favorably. They do have some leverage in our top stack tool. They're not getting a ton of ownership. They are an expensive stack, though, one of the most expensive out there. So if you told me you wanted to go to Josh Allen and you want to mix in, of course, Diggs, maybe you play tight end roulette, or you go to Gabe Davis, who's a little, save some salary, I wouldn't hate it. I think that's about the only thing you can do from this entire game, though.
Yeah, I mean, the problem I have, too, is when you're talking about the tight ends at this game, I suppose you could take some shots, but Dawson Knox doesn't have what is he, under 20 yards in every game but week one? And in week one, I think he had like 25 yards. I could be misremembering. Yeah, 25 yards, 25, 10, 11, 12, 17, and 17. That isn't to say that, he can't come out and have a bigger game, but dude, this tight end position, and now that Kincaid is back as well, what are we really supposed to try and figure out here? Damian Harris is on the IR, so that means, what that means, right? It means that Latavius Murray is going to have 2 touchdowns today, something like that. I'm right.
Somehow.
It's going to happen. Cook had 14 carries last game. Latavius Murray had 12, and Damian Harris played 1 snap before that injury. All I'm saying is it's kind of a tough team to fall in love with outside of the Stephon Diggs. And I do like Gabe Davis at 5,900. It goes to your point that you bring up every time we talk about Buffalo in a decent spot. Gabe Davis can have that game where he catches 4 passes on 6 targets for 160 and 2 touchdowns. Or he could have 3 receptions on 5 targets for like 45 yards and nothing else.
And that's just what you have to live for. Again, it's just what you deal with when you're going to Gabe Davis. You can already see it. It's only been 6 weeks, and you can frame kind of how you want to talk about him in so many different ways. I could tell you, okay, he's had 5 or less points twice already this year. Or I could tell you he's had 20 or more in 1/3 of his games. Like both of those, on one hand, you're like, wow, this guy, want him in the pool. On the other hand, you're just like, this guy could get me 0. So you kind of just have to embrace that. He is a pay down option. I'm not getting right now any Allen, Diggs, and Davis together. It's just too much money that I'm allocating to the stack.
What's your interest level in a guy like James Cook on a day where, and you know what, I'm pretty much in line with where I was on Tuesday when you and I discussed a lot of this on the First Look show early on in the week. I don't think my thoughts have changed too much on some of these low-owned running backs. Most of them I'm just not in love with. I think Cook has the upside here, especially if they go up early. I just hate the fact that even if Damian Harris goes down, he's on the IR, you still have a guy like Latavius Murray who's going to be used in the red zone, and a guy in James Cook who, despite the absence of Devin Singletary, hasn't been featured in the passing game to the extent where he can kind of make up for the lack of rushing touchdowns or goal line carries in the passing game. That's what concerns me. 6,400 is a lot for a guy that needs to score, but probably needs to score from far out or on his singular goal line carry.
Yeah, the problem is I think that now he's even in a more narrow path to success, because it seems, and I'm cherry picking a little bit, but against the Giants in an ugly game, but one that they won, he had no targets. And it seems like in a game like this, where most likely the Bills will be leading, that hurts even more, because what are the chances that it's like, okay, he's going to pick up a ton of, when they're in catch-up mode, a ton of, target share. I don't think that's a really viable path, and that makes it even harder for a guy who's not cheap to get there.
So then ultimately, when it comes down to this game, do you have any top spots? Do you have any priorities?
Not really. I mean, I think that Diggs is kind of in the tier of there's nothing to really say. If you have the money and you can get him in any type of lineup, it's Stephon Diggs. He's a great player. He had 16 targets in the last game. He's been busy. I think he's a great player. Everyone knows that, but at the same time, you could say that about 3 or 4 other wide receivers on the slate. So I don't have much from this game, and certainly the Buffalo side is much better than the New England side, where there's little to no value out there.
There's not a lot. I will say, though, I really don't hate Kendrick Bourne. Okay.
As a run back or just a standalone?
In general.
Okay.
He's not going to excite anybody by any stretch, but he's 4,400. We had his ownership higher earlier in the week, but that's come down considerably. It doesn't seem like the wind is going to be a massive factor. Let me just make sure here, because I think last I looked, the win wasn't going to be a massive factor. Last time it was when these teams played each other. Mac Jones threw the ball 2 times, so that wouldn't be great. Mac Jones stinks. This team is terrible, but I don't know. No Juju Smith-Schuster. They don't really have anybody to throw to. So really all I'm saying is if they go down early, Kendrick Bourne has a 21% target share on the season, 28% air yard share. It could be worse if you're going down there cheap. And then we end up seeing some popular punt plays that end up not performing. 4,400 to me, if you have that lying around on your last spot when you're building a lineup, Kendrick Bourne doesn't seem like the worst spot. Plus, there's still some injuries to this secondary in Buffalo. You could do worse. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, listen, pay down options. I get it, and certainly the game script should be there. It isn't exciting, but it does fit a price point, and it's not an extreme amount of value out there, so I get it. Last thing I'll say, I want to sneak it in there on the betting side. The Bills are going to be a super popular teaser piece. It's a hot topic this week in a lot of different verticals, but yeah, I totally get it with 6-point teasers if you can find the right price.
Yeah. You think New England could take this one out, right?
I definitely think they have a chance. Home divisional games, you always have a chance, but I would never back them with my wallet. That's for sure. They're an awful team.
They're bad right now.
They're really bad.
Detroit and Baltimore. Here's a fun game. 43-point total. Last I looked, it was like 83% of public money coming in on Detroit in this game, just like flooding it. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. It might have been public bets. I'm not sure, but it might have been bets, not handled. But point being, people love the Lions right now, Ben. People love the Lions. And Baltimore at home, I like this game. I like both sides. Unfortunately, when you and I discussed it earlier in the week, we thought that Lamar Jackson and these guys were kind of going to go maybe under the radar based on how well that defense has played for Detroit. But we have Lamar coming in as the third highest owned quarterback behind Patrick Mahomes and Geno Smith. We have Zay Flowers coming in as one of the highest owned wide receivers. We have Mark Andrews as the highest owned, or one of the highest owned tight ends. So yeah, this is a relatively chalky Baltimore team. It is higher for sure than I thought it was going to be going into Sunday.
Me too, and it's on every site too. Like I'm looking at OwnersBox as well. Lamar is getting love all over the place, and part of the reason why I love doing the First Look show on Tuesdays is we can kind of frame things without all the information. And we both talked about Lamar could be a sneaky kind of against the grain option if everyone is looking to Allen and Mahomes and that is not the case. So we have to reevaluate. It doesn't mean that now I'm suddenly not playing Lamar because I do like the spot, but it's not the same circumstances that I thought we would get. And that is a little surprising to me.
It's surprising to me as well, but at the same time, does that mean that you back off of it a little bit? Or do you just follow the same course you were on earlier in the week?
No, I think it's just more important to understand where the leverage is, in the sense of like, okay, if I thought that I could get, say, 10% of Lamar and be healthy over the field, that might not be the case now. You can't do that. You might not be getting anything from that. And then just, I still think it's going to be very easy to differentiate, but it's pretty clear that combinations of Lamar, Flowers, and Andrews, or anything skinny stack wise, is going to be probably with St. Brown run backs a pretty popular build this week.
Where are you at on just foregoing the St. Brown run backs in some of these and going Laporta run backs? Because when you look at the tight end position, pulling up our ownership right now, we have Laporta at 8%. It's nothing insane, right? Kelsey ahead of him by a mile. Luke Musgrave ahead of him by a lot. That likely a spot I come in underweight on. Mark Andrews ahead of him by about 4%. Amon-Ra St. Brown's pulling about 16% ownership, third highest projected owned wide receiver on the slate right now.
I definitely think
we're running it back with Gibbs.
Yeah, so that's the other. That's what I was going to say. That's the other unknown situation here. With Gibbs, seems good to go. Hamstring, I don't know if this really will be a deterrent for people. One of the interesting things about the Laporta run back is you might be doubling up at tight end in the same game. And that is a rarity in lineup construction. You know what I mean? Like if you go Lamar Andrews and you don't bring it back with St. Brown, if you want to go Laporta, you've used both tight ends in the same lineup.
I don't know how much of an issue that really is, though.
It really shouldn't be. It's just kind of weird.
When you look at Laporta, though, and you compare him to the other, say, 5K options out there, same with Andrews, are they really that much different? Like from a ceiling perspective, we've seen Andrews do it. We saw the beginning of last season. He was a maniac out there. And I think we've seen that Laporta is capable of doing it as well. Unfortunately, you have to compete with Amon-Ra St. Brown for targets, but still 11 target game last week for Laporta, and one where they, had the lead all game. I think both of them probably could give you 25-30 in a good game.
It's, again, I think that's one of the several combinations that have to be considered here. Most of my thought process on this game, though, I will say, is Baltimore. I don't have Goff. It's Baltimore stacks, maybe skinny, maybe two and a bring back, and then picking Laporta, Gibbs, St. Brown, or no one on the other side of it. I do not have right now any Goff, Gibbs, St. Brown with like a Andrews run back.
And that's not because Goff's playing outside of the dome or anything like that. Or is it? Or is that just because you have other spots you like more and you prefer the run back with Lamar as your quarterback?
It's more that I don't think it's a good thing that he's not in the dome. I think this is a good spot for Baltimore in general, but I just have other quarterback priorities in that range.
Sure. I like Lamar here too, because this is actually one game we're looking at 19 mile per hour winds. Who does it affect more? It certainly affects a statuesque quarterback more. Listen, Goff's been fantastic as throwing the football this year, but Lamar Jackson can use his legs. Detroit's defense, very good. I mean, wildly improved from last season. I prefer Lamar as well. The real question I have, and we can kind of come full circle on all of this, is, first of all, I will say, I like Laporte at 8%. I love Mark Andrews. I'll back up for a second. You know what the one spot that I'm not in love with is? It's the Zay Flowers spot because of the what's that?
I said, okay.
Well, I like him. I'm just shocked that he's as high owned as he is. I mean, yes, he leads the team in target share, but I think by the time the season comes to an end, you could be looking at Mark Andrews still being that guy. We still know that Lamar Jackson loves Mark Andrews. Zay Flowers, as good as he's been, as good as he has been, and when I say as good as he has been, he doesn't have a game north of 17 fantasy points on the season. He's a rookie. He's been good for a rookie. Solid target share. Overall decent production. First touchdown last week in week 6, but whatever. That's volatile. It's a lot of that's variance. But he's the 4th highest owned receiver on the slate. And I think you could make an argument that 5K range, both at tight end and wide receiver, has a lot of really good options at significantly less ownership. That's the only drawback for me here is I didn't think Zay Flowers would be 16% projected ownership this week.
Did you think, and again, maybe I'm off base, did you think Gibbs would be that popular?
Without Montgomery? Yeah, people love that guy.
I know. It's a fascinating game just when you look at the tools here. St. Brown is going to be popular. Gibbs is going to be popular. Zay Flowers is going to be popular. It's not hard to see why Lamar got more than we expected when you start looking at the skill position players on both sides of this game.
This has to be the highest owned game on the slate.
That is so surprising to me.
Right? It has to be, though, right? Because the Seattle-Arizona game, you're not getting a lot of ownership from Arizona. That's just not happening. You're going to get a ton of Kenneth Walker, Geno Smith. You're going to get a lot of him. We'll see what the hell happens with DK Metcalf. That's an issue right now. When we get to that game, I already looked through some of this. One thing we can do, Ben, is isolate just the 4 p.m. games and see what type of swaps there are. Obviously, like I'm saying, if you're building with JSN right now, see what type of swaps there are if Metcalf plays in that range. There's a few. Also, maybe JSN's just not a bad play in this spot regardless, even if Metcalf's out there. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. With Gibbs, the problem I have is some of that ownership, is going to be coming because Dan Campbell goes, yeah, we'd like to work him into things, but I think he's going to have to shoulder, a lot of the workload, which I'm paraphrasing here. Nothing makes me feel more uncomfortable than that type of speak. Like, oh, we know that we should work him in slowly, but I'm not sure if we will. I'm not just buying into this. Oh, 25 looks for Jahmyr Gibbs today. That's the issue I have. And he said stuff like that in the past, and we still haven't seen it.
So the tricky part about the Gibbs situation is he's not someone that I think thrives on volume only. He can get there on pure efficiency. So he has that out, even if it doesn't come to fruition. Now, if you give him volume, it could be a continuation of Chalk just smashing this year. So I get it. I'm just surprised. That's all. Sometimes you have to, again, that's why I love looking at these tools, because it paints a picture of what the field is thinking. And there are times where you disagree with the field. And with me, when Gibbs, it's not that I don't like the play. I just don't like him as much as the field likes him.
How many of these guys do you like as much as the field from this game? Because the field likes, well, let's go. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Mark Andrews, to some extent, Laporta, 3rd highest owned. I mean, that's 6 right there out of the gate.
Yeah. Lamar, Andrews, and St. Brown are the 3 that I think I have the most interest in. Zay Flowers and Gibbs, I would have the least interest in, but I do want to be clear. I think these are playable guys. There's no doubt about it. But for me, Lamar, Andrews, and St. Brown are the 3 I like the most.
So it's really ownership plays for as far as Zay and Gibbs go. A lot of that comes down to ownership.
Ownership and opportunity cost. Those are crowded ranges, particularly Flowers range. There's 10 guys within $1,000 that I think I can make a case for.
Rand said, wonder how many best ball folks drafted Gibbs. Well, everybody. He was a 3rd rounder. It's crazy.
And I think
obviously I made some mistakes in best ball. Things look good right now, but anyone makes mistakes, get some guys they miss on. But I think I have like 1 Gibbs out of 100 lineups on DraftKings. I just wanted nothing to do with that. 3rd round with David Montgomery in there. After
People
we
fall in
saw
love with those type of guys. I mean, we've seen
I
it.
know. But after we saw what Jamal Williams did last year in that offense,
Yeah, I hear you.
it's crazy. All right. Anything else from this one? It's a big game. I wanted to make sure we covered everything. Like, do you get to any sub 4K Odell Beckham? I gotta ask these questions, man. This is the deeper dive for a reason.
Well, I will say this: anytime there's a game where there's a ton of interest, I think you can always roll the defense, because if you get it right, you not only obviously are happy because you played the defense, but most likely some of the highest owned skill position players might be less inclined to perform. So if you go Ravens D, that's a direct hit. Slight hit. It's not like they can't get there, but St. Brown and Gibbs and those guys could get underwhelming performances, which helps you out even more.
And to your point, maybe there are some blustery wins and it ends up,
Yeah, who knows?
Affecting him. Jared Goff outside of a dome or outside of good weather. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see how Goff plays in this game today. Appreciate you guys getting us north of 500 likes, by the way. Made quick work of that. Got almost 3,000 people watching with us on a Sunday morning, atoning for their sins here. It's good stuff. Washington and New York. All right, here's a fun game. Yeah, Washington laying 3 on the road against New York. Andrew Thomas out again. I mean, that whole team, that offensive line. If you're a quarterback, you're better off just calling out sick at this point. It's amazing to me how many guys on this offensive line have gone down. I mean, seriously, if you go look at the depth chart, they've got 4 guys on the IR, probably 5 or 6 that should be on the IR. Everyone's going down. Daniel Jones is doubtful to play for what it's worth. They're calling it a long shot for him to play. On the other side, though, you and I talked about Terry McLaurin earlier in the week. There's a 5K guy as a 3-point favorite, low total game, tied for the lowest on the slate at 37.5. A lot of these early games are pretty disgusting looking, but I do have some real interest in Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson was seen practicing with the special teamers at points this week. It's been a disaster for him to start the season. It's essentially been McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, with the rogue Logan Thomas game. What do you make of these pass catchers for Washington, starting with McLaurin?
I really like McLaurin. I think a lot of people are kind of saying, okay, maybe it's not that hard of a case to make. He had 10 and 11 targets in 2 of his last 3 games. Howell, at times the volume is there. It's the Giants on the other side. The price is reasonable. It's a really good spot for him, and I'm not alone in saying that.
It is a good spot. If you're not alone in saying, what's the ownership at?
We got him sitting around 10 to 15% on DraftKings OwnersBox, which I'm not surprised about. I get it. It's a pretty good price point. Let me see if it's updated a little bit. Yeah, he's down a little on OwnersBox. We have him at 8% and we have him at 12% on DraftKings.
21% target share on the season. It's not great, but Samuel, Dotson, Thomas, they're all 15% target share guys this year. This has really not been they've spread the ball around far too much for my liking in Washington. You have to think eventually, though, they get back on course and Terry McLaurin starts seeing those double-digit target games. Maybe not every week, but this certainly feels like one where they could get it done. Sure, a lot of people are going to look towards Brian Robinson. Well, maybe not a lot, but I've heard a lot of talk about Brian Robinson in this game. Just, the general thought was, hey, he's 9%, by the way. So in line with like eight other running backs between, 9 and 12, 13%. And then you've got your Walker, Pacheco, Jacobs, White, all of them up higher. I get it. I get it. Brian Robinson's not that good, but this is a good spot in the sense that New York usually can't hold on to the football. They are home. The Giants, Gibson has kind of been an afterthought for most of the, I know he had a receiving touchdown last week, but still scarcely used. I still don't love Brian Robinson here because he's just, once again, the type of guy that needs to probably get into the end zone twice. Yeah,
not a play that, you always have some equity on an offense like that, particularly if they win the game, but he didn't stand out for me. I'm more inclined to take a shot with the Washington passing game or stuff on the Giants side.
So then how are you playing the Washington passing game outside of McLaurin?
I think you can in large field tournaments have some Sam Howell stacks. I don't mind it just because the price point adds up and he can throw the ball volume wise, even against the Giants are bad, but I don't think it's a stretch to think that the Giants win this game. Howell,
I don't think it's a stretch at all.
That's what I mean. So
first of all, it's a 3-point spread. Of course, it's not a stretch, right? But if you ask the average person, they would be talking about this game as if it's a 2-touchdown spread.
Of course. It's just like, oh, the Giants, you can't back them. They have no offensive line. It's like, you don't think that the books know that? That's how they made the spread. We know they have no offensive line. It's a mess.
Yeah,
big mess. Like, but Sam Howell threw the ball 51, 41, 39 in some of these games. There's volume out there. And with Samuel's price point, McLaurin's price point, even Logan Thomas, who burnt a lot of people last week, I think you can mix and match those type of two-mans and run it back with various Giants.
Also, Sam Howell has been this is the interesting thing about this game. I want to point this out to you guys. Your thoughts in chat are more than welcome, guys, even if they're vitriolic.
Is that a real word?
You know what that means. Like,
I know what vitriol is. You can't just say "olic" at the end of words and just say like, that's not how the language works.
That's a word.
Okay. That's why I asked, is it a word? You could have went with yesolic, and I would have known.
Well, I thought you didn't know what vitriol meant.
No, I know what vitriol is.
Yeah, vitriolic.
Believe me, I'm in our Discord. I know all about vitriol.
Yes, you do. But if there's one thing we know about this Giants team, Wink Martindale's defense likes to. The defense hasn't even been that bad. I think it's actually fair to point. What's that?
Yeah, they're trying. I mean, they bring the heat.
They haven't been that bad. Even that Monday night game against a good Seattle offense. What did they allow? Like 24 points or something, but one of those was on a 98-yard touchdown reception or interception touchdown, right?
Yeah. Danny Dimes threw a bad one there.
I know I went to sleep in that game. I was like, yeah, this is not going well. I'm going to sleep, but I'm not wrong, right? Wasn't there a pick six in that one?
Oh yeah, I saw it with my own eyes. It was terrible.
Yeah. So Seattle had 17 offensive points. Miami put up 31. Sure, it's Miami. That's like bad for Miami. Buffalo, I know they were coming off London, put up 14. They had no points going into the fourth quarter. I'm just saying, I'm not saying there's a good defense. Saying the offensive line is the biggest problem on this team, right? It's the offense. If the offense was even remotely competent, this team would be hanging in and probably get a couple of wins. They probably beat Buffalo last week, but they like to blitz. They have a decent enough pass rush. Do you know how many, dude, this blew my mind when I saw this the other day. I was just looking over some numbers. Do you know how many times Sam Howell has been sacked this year?
No, but I'm sure it's a lot.
Take a guess. He's played, 6 games?
22 times.
34.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Dude, 34 times. Do you realize how insane that is? I mean, what's he pacing? Across?
It's like 90 sacks a year.
Yeah, if he's still alive at the end of the season, okay?
That's David Carr status.
Yeah, that's 96 sacks.
Well, the Giants have like 5, 6, how many? Yeah, the Giants have 5 sacks this year.
Yeah.
That's more insane than your stat.
No, it's not, because the Seahawks came into that game. The Seahawks came into that game against the Giants 27th in sacks. They ended that game number 1 in sacks on the year.
Yeah, when you get 10 a game, I mean, that's where advanced stats needs these little filters with like one button that just says, remove the Giants games, and then we can see real pressure rates. Because if you play the Giants, you automatically get boosted into the top 10.
Same with playing Washington.
Well, we'll find out, because the Giants can't generate any pressure.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, all I'm saying is, if they do happen to against the guy in Sam Howell today, would you consider the Giants defense?
Yeah, I mean, when you have 2 bad teams, I always will consider the defense. It's not. I prefer Chicago's defense at $100 less, so not my favorite defense in the world. But yeah, I actually like this game on the offensive side more than the field, though. I have interest in both skill position set of players, and I think you can YOLO each quarterback in a couple of large field tournament lineups.
Probably.
Such an easy build if you do it like that.
I'm just so unconvinced that this Washington team is even remotely decent. You know, they're
I bet the Giants for what it's worth.
I get it. I bet the Broncos this week. So this should be a fun one. This
All right.
Ultimately, though, looking at both of these sides, I see the Giants and I go, man, we know how bad that secondary is for Washington. They just get absolutely gutted on deep balls. Desmond Ridder, first, second, and third in the Millie Maker last week, right? With Pitts, with Drake London. We saw the guy in the spy or the red zone, whichever one, with Jonnu Smith in there at tight end with Desmond Ridder and Drake London. The problem is the offensive line for Atlanta isn't terrible and they can protect him a little bit. I have to ask you, though, Wan'Dale Robinson and then Darren Waller, because you have all of these 5K tight ends, well, you know, in the 5K range, Mark Andrews, Sam Laporta, and then Darren Waller, of course, Kelsey all the way up top. He's getting a lot of ownership. Do you have any interest in Waller? And do you have any interest in a sub 4K Wan'Dale Robinson? He's not going to be your deep guy, but he might get 8 or 9 targets again.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think they want to get him the ball. We've seen it. The price hasn't fully come up. Waller's got to be a pretty big target. And then I was stunned, and I got away with it. But when I built for Showdown in week 6, I basically omitted Saquon. I was like, okay, he might be a decoy. He might be limited. 24 carries and 5 targets.
Yep.
And he did not get hurt, further, it seems like. It seems like he's all systems go here. He's going to be crazy busy in this spot, and I didn't think I would like him, but I'm forcing some Saquon into my lineups.
You're going to have to, right? Because he's not just going to pop up elsewhere. I don't think. I think you'd have to force him in there. But yeah, you're right. He's coming off a game where he played 80% of snaps in his first game back. In week 2, before he got hurt, he played 97% of snaps against the Cowboys. They don't want to use Matt Breida and Eric Gray and Gary Brightwell if he was out there. They don't want to. The only question now is if you're doing so, because this feels like a very contrarian spot. What's his ownership at?
Saquon, let's take a look.
I asked because Kenneth Walker and Josh Jacobs are all the way up there, and then you've got Eckler up there as another pay-up option who's not particularly popular at 10%.
5%.
Barkley at 10? Okay.
5.
Oh, wait, I'm going to have to refresh then.
Oh, maybe I have to refresh. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking at OwnersBox. He's less owned over there. We have him at 10 on
DraftKings.
Okay.
It's actually higher than I thought. I didn't think people would get there. That volume's crazy, though. I don't have any issues with Saquon Barkley. The issue, well, yes, I have one issue. He needs to break one. That's the problem with these guys at that price. Like when you're on such a bad offense, the likelihood that you have to get there on massive, massive volume, and then you probably have to score at that price.
Yeah, he just the thing I like about Saquon, and then we can move on. I know we got but some bad games coming up. It just he can get there in a lot of different ways, which I like. He can get there on volume. We just saw 29 opportunities. He can get there on targets. He could have a Kamara type game. He has 10 targets, 9 receptions, and it boosts him. He could fall in the end zone twice, or he could break one. So there's nothing where I'm like, realistically, if the game goes one way, Saquon has no chance. I think he can get there in any way.
Ninja Choke said staying away from the chalk this week. I am in some spots, probably not at running back, Ben. Yeah, Zach Charbonnet is not expected to play either.
Yeah, Kenneth Walker's it's not Mostert level, but it's a pretty damn good spot.
It is. As you like to say with betting, generational wealth spot, which is way different because ownership is not involved.
There was one of those yesterday in the MMA streets, that's for sure.
Man, I was with you on Alabama. I saw your video and I look at halftime. I'm like, ugh, we're in trouble here. And then they just routed Tennessee.
They did. And then the sim had to pay me back double, and I lost Iowa on a fair. I've never lost a game like this in my life. Iowa, who's terrible, scored on a punt return to win the game, and they said that the guy called a fair catch.
No way. No way.
I swear, go look. And he was like running to the ball and it going like this.
So the hand never came up.
I mean, listen, I was rooting for Iowa. I bet them. I truly, objectively did not think that was a fair catch.
That's crazy.
Yes, you see, chat knows. That's right. The refs in that game should be fired. They should.
Any other thoughts on Washington, New York?
No, I think this is a sneaky game though. Don't be deterred by the total. These totals, there's large range of outcomes. This game could have 55 points and it wouldn't stun me.
And I will say, I think, oh wow, Giants defense was the highest projected own right now. Giants and Commanders are the two highest projected own defense. So
See,
I take back what I said about the Giants earlier.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's really flat, by the way. Everyone's between like 3 and 8%. But wow. Yeah. All right. Broncos defense, here I come, brother.
Yeah, let's ride.
That's right. Talk Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Before we do though, 3,200 of you in here with us right now. If you're new to the channel, welcome, number one. If you just have been trying to think of a way or find a way to get our tools, get access to all of our NFL tools for the entirety of the week. And I don't mean like you get these tools and then you need to purchase add-ons. I mean all of our tools, the Sims tool, the contest generator, the top stacks tool, the boom bust tool, ownership projections, showdown tools, every showdown tool that we have, premium Discord, the lineup generator, which is amazing. I'll talk to you guys about that in a little bit. All of that stuff entirely for free. And not just for one, right? It's every slate, right? You're getting Sunday main slate, afternoon, showdown slate, Monday night football, Thursday night football. You do it today. You have all of the data for next Sunday. Click the link and sign up at OwnersBox. It's in the description. It's in chat. Your minimum deposit is $10. That's it. Now, my recommendation is always, because they've been overlaying like crazy there. And as Ben always says, the type of that dead money is the best money. $500 first match deposit bonus. Take advantage of that while you can, especially while the overlay is still there. 20K up top in their 100K contest today for NFL. They've had some nice showdown contests, super flex format as well, which means we don't have to talk about the Giants and Commanders defense. You can flex in a quarterback in the super flex spot. Really sweet format. And did I mention? I didn't. All of our tools, the Sims tool, the contest generator, the ownership projections, player projections, all of that, we have OwnersBox projections for that. We have OwnersBox for the Sims tool, not just FanDuel, DraftKings, and Yahoo and all of that stuff. We got OwnersBox. So you can just literally get this free week, plug it in, and toss those lineups straight in, upload them to CSV, and you're ready to rock. Take advantage of it. If you do it now during this show, make the deposit and just email us at support@stochastic.com. We'll get you in for today with all the tools. We still have 2 hours and 15 minutes before lock. You do it today, you get in for this slate. That's the time to do it, right? Like now. So you're getting the biggest slate. You don't want to wait till Monday. You do it today. Support@stochastic.com. Throw our email in the chat, Jordan, for anybody to make it easier. Anyway, $10 minimum deposit, link in the description and chat. You don't need a promo, just use the link. $500 first match deposit bonus, and some pretty heavy overlay that we've seen over there on OwnersBox throughout the season. So check that out if you haven't yet. Get all of our tools for free for the entirety of the week. All right, talk to me about Atlanta and Tampa Bay. I loved Atlanta last week. I don't have much interest in them this week. Maybe this is a spot. I'll get to that super chat in a second. Maybe this is a spot that I should be looking at differently. But I'm not as enticed by Atlanta this week as I was last week.
Neither am I. Now, yeah, I mean, Atlanta, the things that transpired last week for this team, I cannot deal with Atlanta. I'm not going to lie. Ritter was super useful, but he left so much out there and in the betting streets. What an embarrassing loss at home. Gave that game away with multiple picks late. Just so tilting. But we did see London and Pitts and some of these guys emerge. I can't get. I want to say, you know what? Everyone's been holding on with Bijan, and now there's going to be a huge depression in his ownership. He's not going to be on the top of people's minds. Maybe it's a buy low spot, but I really don't like the spot against Tampa. This is a team that I'm having trouble getting really any exposure to, and I think it might be warranted.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because on the betting side, it seems like a lot of the sharps are coming in on Atlanta.
Well, that doesn't make me feel good. I bet Tampa.
So I couldn't get there either. I thought Tampa laying 2.5. I know Baker Mayfield's not very good, but they're coming off a pretty embarrassing loss to Detroit at home. And it just, I don't know. I think there's more weapons and a better defense overall. These teams are pretty evenly matched, but Desmond Ritter, it's hard to place faith in him. Like you said, they had over 400 total yards and he still found boneheaded ways to turn the ball over and lose that game by 8.
Yes, it was terrible. But you know what? I know outside the dome doesn't help, but it's Tampa. Like, they're not going up to Buffalo in January. It's a little different. So not worried about that. I just, again, to me, it's just not the best spot. If you wanted to get to Drake London at a reasonable point, I prefer McLaurin. I think most people do in that same range. I get it. If you want to hold on with Kyle Pitts, his price has come up a little bit. I get it, but I just prefer other options across the slate.
82 degrees, I think they'll be okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not it's not the dome, but it's fine.
Our top stacks tool definitely has some interest in Tampa. I think it's down from where it was, though. We had them a lot higher. Now it's looking like it's come down. One of the reasons that Tampa is going to stand out as a decent team, for me, I think I'd rather just pull pieces from this game. I really like Mike Evans today at that price. I like Mike Evans. Godwin is fine for sure. Rashad White ownership. This is where it gets tricky, because I had mentioned you on Tuesday morning, right? It feels like a century ago now.
It does.
And we do that show before we have ownership. It's like our foundational type of spot. I liked Rashad White because, as inefficient as he's been, he's still getting all of the work. Tucker isn't even involved anymore. They tried going to Keyshawn Vaughn a little bit last week, and that ended up exactly how you would have anticipated. Played 21% of snaps and did absolutely nothing in the opportunities he was given. So if Rashad White, who's played 70+% of snaps in every game this season, 79% of snaps last week, the only thing holding me back is the fact that he's pretty high owned in a game with a 37.5 point total. But if we're talking around 20 touches, 3 to 5 targets, I still like Evans. I still like Rashad White here a little bit.
So do I. Again, it is a little freaky because you always want a more reasonable path to success, but he should contribute. He should get volume. They are slight favorites at home. I think he's a reasonable pairing, not just, he can be, of course, played on his own, but I actually have Baker with him and Evans in a stack. I don't mind constructing like that. You save a little money instead of going like Baker, Godwin, Evans, something like that. So I got to Tampa's a little bit in the with Baker.
How many Baker stacks do you have? Number one, ballpark it for me. And number two, how many Baker +2 stacks are you rolling with?
So right now, I haven't finished building, but I have Baker as my third highest quarterback. And so far, I have my Baker exposure split with Baker +2, with White being one of them, and then Baker skinny stacks, mostly with Evans.
Do you have any line? You and I have been doing the podcast exclusive episode every Tuesday. Highly suggest you guys check that out. It has helped me a ton. I'll tell you that much. Just us going into the post-contest simulator and seeing, what builds are winning this year. Not to say I might not have done that anyway, but the deep dive that we've been doing, I think we probably wouldn't know as much about what has won and what has won consistently if we weren't doing that show every Tuesday morning.
Oh, you definitely see trends. You see things that you just wouldn't think about. And it doesn't mean, I have to just do this on every slate going forward. But sometimes I get a lineup and I say, I don't know about this. And then I say, you know what? I've seen this work in the past. I'm not going to be deterred by this. It's okay to run some of these unique formations or lack of run backs, things that we're getting more data on.
Yeah. So we keep it around 30 minutes. It's only in podcast form, no video or anything, but it's gets you guys in and out. Super valuable, I think. I think you'll agree. But Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever it is. My point, though, we've seen so much of one build working a lot this year. And there's two things that it has in common. One, running back, receiver, same team without quarterback, right? We saw Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp do it. We saw the Tyreek Hill and Mostert do it twice now. Twice. There was another one where it worked this year. Feels like there are more teams where that concentrated offense is just becoming more concentrated. But the other part of that is that the lineups aren't weird outside of it. It's not like super low owned plays. Sometimes everybody's pretty high owned, except the build just looks different because it's the running back and quarterback and wide receiver on the same team without the quarterback, maybe no run back. That's the only thing that's been different. Do you see any spots today? I'm straying off topic a little bit, but I think this is helpful. Do you see any spots today where that's viable? I see less of them this week than I did in previous weeks.
I do too. I think there is a world in Kansas City, just because Mahomes is so expensive, where you could have Pacheco and a pass catcher, even Kelsey, and you don't want to add another 8,000. But I think there are those. I think Gibbs and St. Brown will be maybe the most popular non-Goff. Like, give me two skill position players. But on the whole, it's not. I'm not getting to a lot of that this week.
Yeah, the only other one would be Jacobs and Adams, but that's pricey. Ooh. That's real expensive.
I'd rather, I don't know about that.
If Jacobs was at 6K, I'd have probably a ton of that. Because that seems to be the price range that's been most valuable, is the expensive wide receiver and then that low mid-range running back on the same team, Yeah,
Kyron Williams, Mostert, those types. Yep.
Because of what it allows you to build. Once Mostert goes to 8K, that doesn't work as well anymore. Because the reason you're doing that is it allows you to get one other, it just doesn't work as well anymore when you're talking 16, 17,000 between two players on the same team without the quarterback.
Yep.
Who else do you want to get to from Tampa? Anybody else here that hasn't been discussed? I think we hit on, for me, it's Evans and it's Rachaad White with a little bit of Baker stacks.
Yeah. Again, it's not a super important game, and more important on the betting side to me, honestly. I have some Baker exposure, and that's the extent of it.
Yeah. Let's talk Vegas and Chicago. We just I accidentally teased that with Jacobs and Adams. It looks like it's going to be Brian Hoyer now.
Yep.
There were reports earlier in the week that it was going to be Aiden O'Connell. We saw him start in week 4, targeted Jacobs 29% of the time in that game. Him and Adams had a combined target share of like 65% or something ridiculous. Now it's Brian Hoyer, but it's still a veteran quarterback. Devontae Adams, Ben, 2.5-point favorites, 38-point total, by the way. No Justin Fields either. You'll have Tyson Bagent going for Chicago. What?
I said, of course. Yeah, our guy.
Hey, dude, best D2 Shepherd University, man.
Shepherd University.
What a stud. But Adams is kind of the squeaky wheel right now. And Raiders said they're not trading them before the deadline. He said, yeah, I'm growing a little frustrated with my diminishing role in this offense. Who knows what the hell that means? It's the Raiders, man. It's one of the wildest organizations in professional sports. But Devontae Adams and Josh Jacobs, to me, both look pretty good today.
Yeah, it's really good spots for them. Not going to be sneaky. Doesn't matter. Jacobs is getting crazy volume. Going to be one of the most popular builds. I'm interested to see how many Walker Jacobs combos there are. I'd assume be a decent amount of double pay up at running back and then pepper the mid-range. Probably a medium level stack with it, just kind of conceptually grasping it. But yeah, Devontae Adams, it's just tough because he's still very, very expensive. Now, he's not going to be nearly as popular as a guy like Jacobs, and I think that's for good reason. So he carries more risk because I think Hoyer is a much better. He's not going to lose you the game, but I don't think Hoyer's going to get crazy either. That might not be the best thing for Vegas in a game they can probably grind out potentially.
Honey Badger Daily said that hit on Adams looked brutal last week. It did.
Yes, it did.
He's a warrior. My wife was actually down here. We had the Eagles on one side and Red Zone on the other side. And I rewound it. I was like, you got to watch this. This was brutal. He's so tough though. Like that guy,
yeah,
he's only out if he's really hurt. You know that about Adams. If you were prioritizing this is a better way to ask this question. I think ultimately this helps Chad out and everybody out more than just like, hey, do we like this player, right? If you're talking about prioritizing players at wide receiver, where you've got Amon-Ra St. Brown, Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp, all of those guys, okay, in the high price. Adams, of course, up there in salary as well. What do we have him as what do we have his ownership at?
Who, Devontae Adams?
Yeah.
He's not popular. Not as popular as I thought he was going to be. I think he's like,
wow, 6%. That makes me like him even more. You have all of those expensive guys, of which St. Brown, Allen, Diggs, and Kupp are all 15+% ownership. And then on the other side, you want to flip this around. I'll have you touch on both of these. You have Josh Jacobs, who's the second highest projected owned running back, 22%, behind only Kenneth Walker for good reason. And then no other real guys in that price range. Bijan Robinson's getting about 8%. Nobody else really in that range unless you're going up to maybe Barkley or Austin Eckler. How does ownership affect your stance on these type of guys? Where do they rank to you given ownership, but also among the other group of players in that same price range? More specifically Adams, but you could say Jacobs too.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Jacobs that's tricky, you mentioned it. If you fall in that range, it's either like somewhat rebuild or you land on him most likely. And that's why he's going to get some extra ownership. Adams is tougher because there's a big opportunity cost. I have him behind St. Brown and behind Diggs. I mean, again, Kupp is such a different situation because it's $1,300 difference. If they were the same price, I'd rather have Kupp, but they're not. So the thing that's good about Adams, you already alluded to it. I might get a share or two, in some of my lineups, and that might be enough to say, okay, if he goes crazy, I have enough to have a little leverage. And if he doesn't do anything, it's not going to kill the entire portfolio. So I'm going to be a little over the field by default, but I don't have a ton of him either.
Okay. How much Jacobs do you have?
That could be pretty significant. I have him up there I'm mirroring the field there with him and Walker. I do have a healthy amount of, so I could come in, we have him projected for what, 22% right now. I'm going to probably be in the 20s somewhere with Jacobs.
Okay. So close to the field then.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think it's a kill spot, but I'm not brave enough to fade it just because of the volume. He could have 30 touches again. And it's hard not to get there in a competitive game when you get 30 touches.
He hasn't been efficient, but the volume is astronomical right now. It's huge. And now you have Brian Hoyer in there. But you know what I think is more important? Forget about Hoyer, O'Connell, Garoppolo. What I think is more important is it's entirely possible that Tyson Bagent, what I was really going to say is it's entirely possible that the Bears just can't move the ball. And despite the lack of efficiency, Chicago at least has plenty of opportunities to get it done, right? You could say they can't move the ball either, but it's just, going to be going back and forth, and eventually Jacobs gets there on sheer volume. Maybe it's possible that Tyson Bagent is able to move the football, but it's given the total, it's more likely that he isn't. Go ahead.
No, I agree. That's what you're getting with this game. Makes it a little unknown, and I'm more prone to maybe just, there's no stacks for me in this game. It's just one-offs here and there.
Michael Hawks with a $10 super chat. Thanks, brother. Appreciate all you guys supporting the show here. We're at 700 likes, by the way. I think it's 1,000 is out of the question.
What do you mean? We're not going to get there. I think we will.
What?
I think we will.
You can't take the contrarian perspective. Just
I'm not. We only need
today.
300 more.
And we have 3,500 people watching.
See?
All right.
289 more.
So, all right. For those of you guys out there, maybe you forgot. It's like Sunday morning. You might be hungover.
242 more.
You might have just forgotten. That's fine. But your support, when you atone for your sins here on the Deeper Dive, goes a long way. Take a single second, show some love. So you actually think it's doable?
Yeah, 193 more.
Feels weird being on the other end, doesn't it?
157 more. Look at this. We're picking up like every time I give a.
All right. Maybe we will. Maybe I've for once underestimated.
123 more.
Usually I'm the one that always rides for the people, and it's you and Neil that talk shit. We'll see. If we do, thank you guys. I like to be proven wrong here. The support is very meaningful to us. Michael Hawks, 3 entry max. My QBs are Watson if he plays. He's expected to. We're going to get to that game right now. Herbert and Stafford. Thoughts on that, and who do you like? Yeah, it's fine. The only problem I'm having with Herbert, man, it's tough to make these Herbert stacks that I love.
Yeah, that is tricky. That's such a interesting game, and we'll get there in a little bit. I'm fine with all 3 of those quarterbacks. 0 issues with them. I certainly Watson. You're rolling the dice, but he could be a real interesting tournament situation. I think Herbert's the toughest one to build with. If I was going to give you another one, it would probably be Lamar.
Okay. Yeah, probably me too.
24 likes away. It's 18 likes away. Look at that. Easy game.
Damn, fellas. Thank you.
Yeah, they know. When I take the over, we better be heading there. Like I only do that once a year. So
I know. Yeah, we're gonna hit it with like 30 minutes to go. That's crazy. Was not
John Grossman. Way to contribute. Appreciate you.
Who?
John Grossman, first time listener. Subscribed and smash the like button. That's what we love to see. New people joining the team.
And immediately atoning for past sins, lifting the weight. The burden is clean. Their souls are pure. All right. Man. Chicago Bear. Oh, Jacoby Myers. Any interest in Myers or Michael Mayer? Michael Mayer here for that cheap price point for Las Vegas.
I think Mayer is a fine punt if you want to punt tight end. He's a talented guy. Big fan of him coming out of Notre Dame. He's starting to get some target share. I think he could be pretty reasonable. That's about it, though.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm going to talk about Trey McBride later, as you guys. So I have no reason to not think that Michael Mayer is fine as well. You're going cheap down there. And I will also say one of the reasons that I'm okay with this position, I think you're going to agree with me, even if you like this guy I'm about to mention. I think the reason it's okay is because if Luke Musgrave is really going to be 14%, or on those weeks where an Adam Troutman is 15% or a Pat Freiermuth is your cheap guy is 17%, I don't mind pivoting to another, not great cheap option. To me, at tight end, why not? They're all touchdown dependent anyway.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Yeah. Any interest in Chicago today? Jonta Foreman without Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson, sorry.
I think you can go to Foreman. A, he fills a price point that's very difficult to get for running backs. And B, it's not the worst matchup in the world. I'm not really messing around with Bagent. If I was building, if I had 150 teams, would I have some Komet, Bagent? Because we don't know. I think he's far more interesting because there's a small chance this guy's amazing. I think that's doubtful, but I always like to pay for the unknown, just not in my core main lineups.
Okay. I like it. That's why I like doing shows with you. Once in a while, you're willing to stray, lead the reservation and take some shots. What are you thinking? Like 30, 40% exposure to Tyson Bagent today?
Just straight double lock button, use them in the super flex, somehow both quarterback positions on OwnersBox. No, it's one of those things. Two things can be true to me. This guy could be god awful, but it still might be worth trying to say.
I hear you.
There's a chance.
First of all, I was joking about 40%, but I get it. Vegas isn't good. So yeah,
no,
I get it. Are you getting to any Brian Hoyer?
No.
Okay. Jonta Foreman is just another one where I don't know what to make of it. Travis Homer is going to play. But I would think that Foreman still gets the bulk of opportunities here. 4,800. I think he is a more than reasonable option in a game like this. He's not going to excite you, but it's a 2.5 spread. It's a low total game, which, you don't love the low total, but a game where they might struggle to move the ball. Tyson Bagent's a quarterback. Jonta Foreman is the type of guy that can pick up some yards after contact. You don't need to open up huge holes. 61% of snaps last week. I think he's a good play at sub 5K. Honestly, Ben, I'd get to him over a lot of the other 5K guys.
Yeah, he's the only Bear that I have really any interest in, to be honest, outside of, again, if you have a large pool, I like to mention some guys, but Foreman is on a couple important lineups for me.
McLaurin or Hollywood Brown from Zachary Cannell. What's up, Zach? Honestly, I like both of these guys a lot. I like Marquise Brown, the target share close to 30%. He's seeing double-digit targets almost every week. A lot. He's targeted in the end zone. I would actually lean Brown over McLaurin, but I think you could make a very good argument for either of them. That's not a cop-out here. I'm saying I'll go Brown, but I think they're both at their low 5K price points, really good plays this week.
My plan is to be overweight on both. If I had to pick, it would be McLaurin.
Same. On the overweight to both. Cleveland and Indianapolis. It looks like Deshaun Watson's going to play in this one. You're a big Amari Cooper guy. Kareem Hunt is questionable, but it looks like the only question now is Deshaun Watson going to be anywhere near 100%? I don't know the answer to that, but the game is in a dome. It is a decent environment. Colts have been dealing with some injuries to the secondary. Are you getting to this?
So I'm a little freaked out just because of the unknown situation with QB. I still am going to bet on Amari Cooper a little bit. So I do have him in. The targets are healthy, and I do think there's some upside there. I like the matchup. I like the price. But as you mentioned, your guess is as good as mine of how effective is the Cleveland passing attack. Will Cleveland be able to just smother them with their defense, lean on that defense, not make mistakes, and have a lackluster output? I worry about that as well, but I still think that Cooper is in play.
So do I. The difficulty I'm having mostly is that with Deshaun Watson, if this was a guy who we saw throughout the season before the injury, light it up in every week, or at least look good, I think I'd be more inclined to take the shot. The issue I have, man, is that he's had one good game, right? And it was still made some mistakes for what it's worth. But he had like that one where he just threw it 100 yards behind him. You know what I'm talking about. But he's had one good game.
Mm-hmm.
So who is Deshaun Watson healthy? Who is Deshaun Watson? We don't know if he's fully healthy. Right?
We don't. And it's just, again, though, what you have to embrace some of the unknown. I think like that it's just a spot. There's enough there that I think it is worth maybe leaning on some of this, but you mentioned the backfield's a little murky. Elijah Moore's at 4,200. I see some merit there. I prefer Bourne probably as you do. So I don't have a lot to get to here, but at the same time, I don't think it's a complete washout.
I do shows all week for NFL, and there's one guy that I've seen chat mention a lot. I've noticed this throughout all the shows. I'm seeing it right now. Jerome Ford. I assume you've seen the same thing.
I have.
Lot of attention and talk about Jerome Ford at 5,100 today. Kareem Hunt, game time decision, might not play. Are you as high on Ford as it seems many of our viewers are?
I'm not. And it's not to say that I hate the play. I just honestly want to see what info we can get. There's a lot of unknowns around him. This is a guy, again, we saw him, burst on the scene randomly after Chubb got hurt in that Pittsburgh game. I get it. There could be some good volume there. And depending on who's in and who's out and how effective Watson is, it's a good price point. I have, and maybe I'm wrong here, I have Foreman ahead of him.
Okay.
Do you?
I have Foreman slightly ahead of him too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's close, but I do.
Real close. I think Ford's fine. But you know what the problem I have with Ford is? Again, not trying to cop out because I'm going to have some Jerome Ford. It's inevitable at that price point.
Yep.
And if Kareem Hunt is out, this is a 1 p.m. game. That changes things for me a lot.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot. But if Kareem Hunt's in, with the involvement that we saw last week, yes, Jerome Ford was definitely involved. They also had PJ Walker. You don't want to throw the ball. But 50% of snaps to 37% for Kareem Hunt. I believe Kareem Hunt had a receiving touchdown, didn't he? He scored. I don't know if it was on the ground or through the air.
It's on the ground, but yeah.
Okay. But yeah, this is just kind of one of those spots that I think is fine. And I want some Jerome Ford. But I think where I stray from the field is seeing everyone like, I don't see how Jerome Ford doesn't absolutely smash in this game. That's where I feel a little bit differently.
Same. And again, we'll keep an eye. The Kareem Hunt news is really important.
Huge.
So we're going to have to wait and see. And that's why Live Before Lock After Us will have you covered there. That will fill in the blanks for that situation.
Gardner Minshew turned back into a pumpkin last week, right? And we saw that against the Jags, got tuned up. Do you like Pittman or Josh Downs this week? The backfield, I'll say the same thing I said last week, especially now going up in just a much more difficult matchup against arguably the best defense in football. I have no problem just deciding not to pay $6K price points on Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor against this Detroit team or Cleveland team.
Yeah, I have Cleveland defense. That's about the extent.
Okay, so really not getting the much at all from the Colts.
Nope.
Okay. You have enough respect for this Cleveland defense to say, hey, I think I can look elsewhere.
A combination. I really respect the defense, and every single guy on the Colts is in a price point where I can find 2 or 3 other people that I think are in a better spot.
I think the biggest takeaway here, and we're going to know very soon, like you said, live before lock coming up with Eric Lindquist and Matt Gajewski, Kareem Hunt news.
Yep.
If Ford is the guy, like the clear guy in that backfield, that change. I mean, who else do they have there? Pierre Strong.
Okay, I thought he was on New England, so
they signed Deion Jackson too, facing his former team, but that guy stinks.
That guy's another one. He's in the Duke Johnson. He's on 6 teams simultaneously. That guy is everywhere.
He's the Ish Smith of the NFL.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. It's just like, wait, what?
All right. Okay. Where are we at? Pittsburgh.
4 games left.
We're fine. Okay. We're fine. Pittsburgh and Rams. Fryermuth's on the IR. Kyron Williams, Ronnie Rivers on the IR. Darrell Henderson expected to play. I said this all week when we saw Zach Evans' ownership earlier real high. I was like, I will have 0 Zach Evans if he ends up being where he is. I hate that backfield for the Rams right now. Darrell Henderson, was he coming off the couch?
I mean,
or was he on a practice squad?
I assume maybe he was in some type of I wasn't a name that I had seen much of anything, so maybe he was on a practice squad. I honestly don't know. But you mentioned, I mean, like Royce Freeman.
Yeah.
Like another one. Like, really? These guys are from the clouds. Did not think we'd be mentioning his name.
No. Henderson's not even in the player pool, I don't
know. He's not even in the player pool.
Yeah. I don't want to take chance. I don't want to guess on this backfield. Plus, it's not like Pittsburgh's defense is Arizona's defense, right? Like, it's not saying, hey, what a great matchup. Maybe
no, it's not a kill spot by any stretch.
If it's a kill spot, then maybe you sprinkle a little bit and hope that one of those guys pops off. But it's the whole Ben Rasa. It's your whole philosophy. Like you have to get the efficiency in a spot like this. And then you also have to get the player right who's actually getting the touches. I'm out on that.
Yep, totally agree. There's a real chance that no matter who you pick, no one gets there. Right. And there's a real chance that one of like 4 guys gets there and you have to pick which one.
Yeah, in a not the best matchup.
No, very difficult. I braver people than me can try to hero call that.
Deontay Johnson's going to play. That kind of sucks because I loved George Pickens going into this game. And now, Johnson's just going to have 10 targets, 6 receptions for 46 yards and no touchdowns. But he is cheap. He got full practices in. It seems like he's perfectly fine. What are you doing on both sides of this one? Feel free to hit it on both angles.
Yeah, I don't have a ton for Pittsburgh. I am a little upset just as you are. I thought this would have been a good spot for Pickens. And not only does this bump him down, I am a little freaked out about Deontay Johnson. The sim tools are getting him quite a bit. And I get it. Anytime a guy comes back from like a hamstring or something, I know you mentioned the practice sessions, I do get a little freaked out. So I'll have some exposure there. And then on the other side, I don't have, this is probably one of my bigger changes from Tuesday. Stafford, I do think is fine. He's got ample weapons. It's a very difficult build for me though. When you get to Stafford, certainly Kupp is crazy expensive. So I think you can go there, but in a not so great matchup, healthy total, underwhelming game for me. I wouldn't be upset if this game was not producing on the whole. I think that would help me.
Agreed. Shane Hall said, no, Pickens is better now because Johnson will take some off. No, I disagree. I disagree. I think it's way different when you're talking about like a Keenan Allen and a Mike Williams, where you say, yeah, Keenan Allen could take, Mike Williams being in there, take some off. Keenan Allen's your possession guy getting double-digit targets in a spot like that. But when you have just a massive target share guy year over year like Deontay Johnson, I don't think it helps that Pickens could go back down to 5 targets. I also think Pickens is the type of guy that has the most insane catch radius that I don't really give a shit. You know what I mean? Like Pickens is the type of guy, just throw it up to him and he's going to come down with it. I would much rather a guy that could see 8 to 12 targets a game in Deontay Johnson not be on the field this week. That's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, I just the Steelers passing attack in general has been underwhelming. So it's another situation where none of these guys could end up panning out. And that is a little freaky.
Terrible.
Yeah, they've been Pickett. That one, I mean, you can add it to the list. I thought Pickett was going to be really good.
Favorite play on each side of this game?
I mean, it's still gonna have to be Deontay Johnson by default.
Yeah.
He's the only Steeler. I guess it's Cup, but again, it's $9,500.
He's so expensive.
It's crazy expensive. Now, this is where paying down for a cheap stack gives you elite one-offs, but brutal.
It's tough. Hey, EMAC, what's up, brother? EMAC, have you got any of those free articles that you've been putting out that
Great fire.
do very well? Yeah, do very well. Throw them in chat. Don't conceal the goods from the people. Arizona and Seattle. All right, so you already know. This is my disclaimer. I'm getting this from Josh Dobbs this week. They're big dogs on the road. It's ugly. He could be terrible. Kyler Murray's out. This is probably Dobbs' last game. I think Trey McBride at that price point, out snapping Zach Ertz last week, essentially running the same amount of routes, leading the team in receiving, talented pass catcher, and good enough at blocking to where Gannon's like, hey, he's getting a lot better. We could play him out there and get him better. Developing. Zach Ertz doesn't have a future with this team. So I'll have some shots there. As I said, I recommend against you guys doing this. If you do so at your own risk. That simple. But I will have some Josh Dobbs stacks this week. It's super cheap. It allows me to get a ton of different stuff in my lineups. He has 50-yard and a touchdown rushing upside. I'm willing to eat it if I'm wrong. Fine with that. But I like Marquise Brown, Ben, and I think there are just some cheap options on this in this game where it's very possible that they are forced to throw heavily. That I'm just not opposed to cheap options here when Dobbs hasn't been good, but he's been serviceable. They had more time of possession than the Rams last week. Sure, the Rams had some big plays, so it's going to skew that a little bit, but they did move the football. They actually moved the football. This wasn't like Giants offense. So for me, yes, I'll get to some Dobbs, some McBride, some Marquise Williams, probably even a little bit of Rondale Moore and Michael Wilson as well. I don't want to go crazy. I'm not running like 3-man Arizona stacks. That seems outrageous. But all of these guys are dirt cheap, and they're going to have to throw, and Dobbs has some rushing upside. I'll take some stabs.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, this is where, and it's not to take a shot at this guy, but this is where you don't have to be the best real life quarterback to be look at Ritter last week. He single-handedly you could argue lost the game, and he was extremely useful for DFS. So I'm going to probably tail you on this. I like the way the Arizona stack comes together. Of course, if you want run backs, it doesn't get easier than Seattle. Legitimately the easiest run backs you could ask for. Good game. One of the more important games, not just for us. I think in general, people will be all over this game.
I don't know how all over they're going to be on Arizona still, though.
No, but I think Hollywood will be a really common run back to the Geno stacks.
For sure. I just think on run backs, they'll be popular. I don't think it'll be popular. I don't think Trey McBride gets much ownership. Michael Wilson, Rondale Moore. It's Marquise Brown. What's that?
Yeah, I agree with you.
15% going to Brown. And I think that's fair. At that price with his volume and target share, I get it. But yeah, you know what? If this is a game where people love the Seahawks, which I do, I love the Seahawks. Of course, there's some unknowns here. There's some question marks. I think it's only reasonable to have some interest in the other side of this game as well. If we're assuming the Seahawks go up real early, and I'm not even convinced they do, but you can't run the ball without James Conner. We'll see what happens. Maybe Dobbs gives us that rushing production that we need. But yeah, if nothing else, this is a fun game from a lineup construction game theory standpoint, especially on the Seattle side.
Great. I think that the best part about this game, there's a lot of ways to go. Merit for both quarterbacks +2, skinny stacks, one-offs. I think that pretty much anything is in play for these two sides. Kenneth Walker might be the best play on the slate, and Arizona's got cheap pay down options. It sounds, I just want to confirm this because I think it's important, maybe selfishly for me. You have your boy McBride over Mayer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's close. I mean,
I know. It's all.
What does it really matter, right?
Yep.
But the only reason I do is because I would assume that I'm probably not going to have many Hoyer lineups at all.
Yep.
Right? That's all it comes down to. It's the cheap stack.
Yeah, if Dobbs gets there, obviously that can only help the chances for McBride. Yep.
Right. I think if I was like, oh, you know what, the cheap guy I want to go to, because everyone has their cheap guys. Some people are going to go to Jordan Love this week. Some will go to Hoyer. Some might even take shots on Tyrod Taylor or whoever. If it's Dobbs, then I think naturally you're just going to be funneled to more cheap options for Arizona by default.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
I love Kenneth Walker. Charbonnet not expected to play. If Walker kills me today as chalk, whatever. The volume's been crazy, even with Charbonnet healthy. Do you agree with that, or is this a spot where maybe you actually look to pivot?
No, I'm all about that. The thing I like about Kenneth Walker, and again, this is somewhat anecdotal, but you can check the red zone. When they get down there, if they run him on the goal line and he gets stuffed, you know what they do? They just give it to him again. And I love teams that do that.
Right.
Like some of these teams, you give it to the guy one time and then it's like, all right, well, got to throw 6 fades, a trick play. Like, no, just they will run him and run him. He's got some of the best anytime touchdown opportunity of any player on this entire slate.
Talk to me about the pass catchers here. How are you playing this right now with DK Metcalf being a legitimate game time decision? JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba saw, more snaps, more of a snap share than a highest snap share than we've seen all season. That's encouraging. Tyler, I like Tyler Lockett a lot here though, because yes. I think I would have liked Tyler Lockett regardless of DK Metcalf. If Metcalf doesn't play, sweet. If he does play, okay, Lockett can still smash.
Yep. Absolutely. This is one where you're going to want to have your late swap abilities ready. We'll see. If Metcalf is ruled out, certainly JSN is going to be in play, but Lockett's in play regardless. Walker's in play regardless. And I think Geno Smith is in play regardless.
Yeah. Brad asked, how many times has Kenneth Walker broke a slate? Well, I mean, look, he's played 5 games this year, and he was in the winning Millie Maker lineup in week 3 against Carolina. He had a huge game. So, yeah. Anyway, final thoughts on Seattle. This is a really important spot. I just don't want to gloss over anything.
No, I think that they're just listen, they're upwards of, north of a touchdown favorite, another really good teaser piece. Yeah, good team.
Well, fellas, we're coming up on the Chargers in Kansas City. Maybe the game many of you have been waiting for, just to see what the right direction to take on this one is. But we got almost 4,000 people watching with us right now. This won't be applicable to all of you. But if you are in Colorado or Virginia or Ohio or New Jersey or Iowa, or most importantly, Kentucky, get your free money at Bet365. I'm going to keep this real simple. They're giving you $150 when you bet $5. You use the link in the description or in chat. You sign up, right? Takes you 2 minutes. Mentioned it earlier in the week. You could be firing one off on the can, scrolling through Instagram posts, or you could make some money. Make some money while you're doing something that generally wouldn't be productive. You sign up, you deposit, you verify yourself, $10 minimum deposit. Make a bet on whatever the hell you want. Throw it down on an 8-leg parlay. It's a $5 bet. Win or lose, you're getting $150. It's $150 in 2 minutes. $75 a minute, one might say. If you're in Kentucky, you deposit 10 and bet $1. For those of you Kentuckians out there, is that what we call them? Out there, $365 when you bet $1. That's 10% of the $10 deposit. Easiest money you're going to make. At least coming out of today, if you're in one of those 6 states, Colorado, New Jersey, Virginia, Ohio, Iowa, and Kentucky, at least coming out of today, you can be like, well, I didn't have the best day, but it made up for it because I put $5 down or $1 down, made 150, made 365 for doing absolutely nothing. Link in the description and in chat. It's that simple. Takes no more than a couple minutes. You're in. You got free money. Hey, it's the best kind of money. Take advantage of it whenever it throws itself at you. And now you've got yourself on an additional sports book to always make sure you're getting the best odds. Best of both worlds, man. Link in the description and in chat for Bet365. Chargers in Kansas City. All right. They'll hit on these injury news. We're going to get it in about 2 minutes, these inactives for today. Obviously, it's the highest total game on the slate. It's come down. It's still at 47.5. Herbert has never not played Patrick Mahomes close. In the 6 games they played, they've all been 1-possession games, except for one in week 17 where Andy Reid rested all of his starters. 2 of them have gone to overtime. You get my point. Even remember last year with the injury to Herbert, and he still threw that dart into the end zone to cover. You remember, because I had the Chargers in that game too.
Yeah, it's always something with them.
It looked so good. He got picked in the end zone before that. He got picked in the end zone. And I was like, fuck. And then it turned around. Anyway, how will you approach? I'd rather you cover it from both sides and just give like the best perspective from a game theory standpoint on how to strategize around this game.
Yeah, it's a great game, obviously, but it's not that simple of a build because you've got an 8,000. This is where the quarterbacks really become part of the stack in the sense of your price per dollar. Like you have $8,000 quarterbacks. Eckler's expensive. Keenan Allen is expensive. Palmer's that pay down secondary option kind of in the Gabe Davis build. Everett sub 4K. So I get it right now. And I'm interested to see what you say, Luffy. It's not that I can't. I'm just not getting to Eckler. I'm a little freaked out about this, but I do respect Kansas City's defense. And for that reason, I'm having trouble building Chargers stacks. I've got some one-off of Keenan Allen. I don't mind these peripheral pieces. Obviously, Quentin Johnston is still not found it for them. Good team, good matchup. Not my favorite team on the board, though.
I'm not getting a lot of Eckler either, and it's kind of frightening.
Yeah, it's scary.
Kansas City, good defense. This could also be a 21-17 game, and I wouldn't bat an eye at it, right?
It's always something with these two. This is a scary game because I think we know, or at least I recognize the talent on these teams, but price points make it difficult.
Look, the best player on the Chiefs today might be Brandon Staley. He drives me insane, dude. He drives me nuts with some of those decisions. Horrible. But you know what? The biggest question isn't like, hey, do you think this is a good fantasy game? It's how much Allen are you getting to? How much Gerald Everett are you getting to? How much Mahomes and Kelsey are you getting to? Because once you get past them, by the way, Kadarius Toney, in the event that you have JSN lineups and Metcalf does play and you just want to pivot, Kadarius Toney is there on the afternoon slate. There are actually a few of them. I wanted to point that out to you guys. I'm not saying you have to love them. I'm just saying if you're trying to get different, maybe and you're in a good spot and it turns out the news breaks against you. Some of those sub 4K receivers in the same price range as JSN, Michael Wilson, Kadarius Toney, Quentin Johnston, but I don't know how you can even look towards him in a spot like this.
No, I really don't know how you could either. I'm going to try to make room for some Eckler just because he's so good that I want to make sure I can get at least some exposure. But to me, it's a game that I think you really need to be cognizant. If you really go onslaught, it's a lot of salary you're soaking up. And I get that they grade out well and it's a good team, but I think for that reason, this is where the top stack tool I think is super interesting just because when you see that average salary column, the Chargers are sky high. And yes, their top stack percentage is nice, but because of the average salary, I think it drags them down a little bit.
Kareem Hunt's playing.
Good.
Yeah.
That makes the decision easier for me. I'm more okay now with saying, okay, Foreman probably gets the nod over Ford for me.
Last thing on this game, best way to kind of break it all down. How are you right now actually playing this Chargers Chiefs game in your lineups?
It's one-off based.
Okay.
It's mostly when I have room, paying up for either a Keenan Allen or Eckler, if I can force Eckler in. If I don't, it's Pacheco on the other side. I think that his usage right now, he's a serious threat for this Chiefs offense. I know they always are changing stuff, but it seems like Pacheco has now taken control.
Bell cow back work.
Legitimately 20 touch.
Yeah.
Not even upside. Like I expect 20 touches for him.
Yeah. You pretty much should at this point.
Yeah. That's good enough.
Also, good enough pass catcher too.
That's what I mean. Not phased out, not one way. Like he's just good. And then, you want to go pay for Travis Kelce. Godspeed. Great player. I have a little bit or see, I'm going to have to try to get some. It's so difficult, man. It's such a whack-a-mole. Like you start paying up for some of these guys. Obviously people get squeezed. Travis Kelce is elite. We know this. It just changes your build. And I do prefer the 5K tight end options.
Are you at a point in the season where you've thrown your hands up when it comes to these pass catchers not named Travis Kelce and said, I'm just not even going to try?
Yeah, that was week 3. So yeah. Are you kidding me?
All right. You ready to wrap this one up? Green Bay and Denver?
Do it.
By the way, over 4,000 people with us right now.
1.2. Woo.
I know, 1,200 plus likes. We got the best people around, man. It's a good day for football. Good day to be watching the deeper dive. Thanks, fellas. And ladies, all 3 of you out there. All right. And shout out to Jordan Klein for producing, as always. Green Bay and Denver. All right, I'm going to take a somewhat contrarian approach on this, not because I want to, but because I kind of feel this way. I think the Broncos defense might have figured some things out. I don't think they're good, but I think it could be similar to the Browns last year where they had those massive communication errors despite some talent. I know Denver shipped off some of their good defensive players because they just suck as a team. I'm just not convinced that this defense is as bad as we saw them earlier in the year. I think it might be exaggerated a little bit. Jordan Love might be the worst starting quarterback in football right now.
Oh,
he stinks, dude. He stinks.
I mean, I'm not saying they're, making his Canton bust and shipping him there, but he's not as bad as some of these other dudes.
I'm not talking about backups that are getting spot starts.
New England is behind. Whatever. We don't have time for that.
All right, fine. We'll go Jordan Love, then Mac Jones.
Yeah, that might be accurate at this point.
I don't know. All I'm saying is this team to me is this is what, like, I could get burned bad on this. This is one spot that could really burn me because it does have a 45-point total. It's one of the highest on the slate. But I love Aaron Jones as a football player. I love him. But he's been limited all week, and he came back after a multi-week hiatus, and then he's out again, and then they have a bye, and he still doesn't come back and practice in full throughout the week. He thinks he's going to play, but that scares me with those type of injuries to a guy like Aaron Jones. In the passing game, sure, go ahead, play Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, play Luke Musgrave. I just don't like this Green Bay offense all that much this week.
I don't like them a ton either. I do have some one-offs because I'm getting to Russell Wilson. I think this is a fine spot for him. At home, close game, healthy total, easy pairing. I got some Russ Wilson today, and doesn't feel good, but at the same time, I'm pretty comfortable with that.
By the way, I'm not saying you guys don't play Jordan Love. We talked about Josh Dobbs. Ben mentioned Tyson Bagent. It's a week 10. It's a week 7 slate with 10 games and a lot of low totals. Shit, if you're going to play Jordan Love, do it on a day like today. I get it. I just don't love it. That's all. And then with Denver, I don't have much interest there. I'd love to get to Javonte Williams if Jaleel McLaughlin wasn't actually still a fixture in this offense, but he is. But he is. So this game, despite the second highest total on the slate, it's actually probably one of my bigger fades given the total.
Wilson having him and Sutton connecting would really help me. That's probably the most important piece I have here. Other than that, I don't have anything to say. I have a little Broncos defense because of you.
All right. Well, hey, follow Ben at JazzRaz DFS. What a show, man. Heck of a show, huh?
Good times, as always. Appreciate everybody.
Yeah.
See what we get today.
Glad to be back. Follow him at JazzRaz DFS, _D. And don't forget, guys, if you're not repping that avatar, that sweet stochastic avatar, to get yourself a free month of any subscription of your choosing. Shit, all you got to do, stochastic.com/avatar. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but you're playing anyway. And in doing so, tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF and mention us too, because we like to see these wins. Stochastic HOF. That's all you got to do. Get a free month of any. Hell, you could win in football and be like, wait, I want the basketball one. $200 value, every single tool. Rep the avatar, whether it's DraftKings, FanDuel, OwnersBox, wherever it is you're playing. And we'll see you back here next time. Eric Lindquist, Matt Gajewski, everyone. Goodbye.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Live Before Lock. Look at that. Seamless once again with Jordan Klein here at the helm. I'm Eric Lindquist. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist on the Twitters, the X, the whatever it is. Matt Gajewski, you can go follow him at Matt_Gajewski. We're presented by OwnersBox. Going to be a fun one here. Just got a lot of actives we're going to touch on. But first off, Matt, how you doing, my dude?
Doing good, man. Little bit of a greasy slate, the kind I really like, but otherwise doing great. fun slate of college football yesterday and looking forward to move this into an NFL Sunday. How are you, Eric?
Doing all right. Just trying to stay apprised of news. Thank God we don't have to deal with this Jerome Ford madness. That would have been problematic for me against the Colts. Wouldn't have been my favorite piece of chalk to try to figure out what to do with. But now I just don't have to play him. So just one piece that we don't have to think about. A lot of late swap implications because there are some injuries in the late window. I want to get some clarity on a couple of things. One, can we get any news on Aaron Jones? Mainly, I just want to see him suit up. He's had some surprise scratches, but sounds like he's going to be all good to go. That's going to be somebody that we talk about from a GPP's perspective, at least on my end for sure. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, inactive here again. So we're looking at another, perhaps Kendrick Bourne getting steamed up in the next 80 minutes here before lock. But anything stand out to you, Matt?
Yeah, you mentioned the Kareem Hunt one, or I guess you mentioned it on the Jerome Ford side. That was the biggest one for me so far. In the late window, it's definitely going to be DK Metcalf, which we unfortunately don't have that news now, which kind of creates a unique slate environment we don't typically get for NFL. But, I kind of like that as a GPP player. I know you're always harping on, we need to be considering late swap. We need to be considering late swap. And today more than ever, I think that's really important.
Yeah, not to preview too much NBA here as well, but that's kicking off on Tuesday. And we've got the tool of all tools coming down the pipeline here at Stokastic. I am very, very, very excited about it. Just throwing it out there for all the late swap people out there. It's going to be legend. Wait for it. Wait for it. It's like a cow. Dairy. Legendary. It's going to be awesome. But friends, see you all in the chat. Got Doc Sather hanging out here from South Dakota, fellow South Dakotan. Good to see everybody hanging in the chat. Smash that like button. I know the guys got it up over 1,000 right from the get-go here, but we are with you for 80 minutes here, leading you all the way up till lock. I'm excited. You're excited. Let's party. We start at the quarterback position here on this show, and a couple of guys at the top end that can't really be denied. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert. I mean, these are 3 8K guys that I'm just shocked that I don't have more of them. I'm finding myself into the 6K range a lot. But I think part of it is Mahomes. I want to play him skinny. It's difficult and feels thin to try to add another pass catcher. Same thing can be said for Allen. Herbert, you get Austin Eckler back, but I mean, God, that is such an expensive trio. Him, Allen, and Eckler, try to put them together in any capacity. Who are you getting to the most here at the top end? Because for me, the answer is not a lot of any of them.
We are very different in that regard. Then.
Okay.
I'm playing a lot of Lamar, and I'll be playing a lot of not so much Mahomes, but definitely Josh Allen. These are 2 players I want to get to. It's a really bad quarterback slate, just on paper, talent-wise. Now, with that said, we've seen Ritter win the Millie Maker. A lot of these players, like Dobbs, they've gotten there in recent weeks. Doesn't mean it will continue in week 7. Last year was kind of the year of, all right, you kind of need to be paying up for Allen, Lamar. Unfortunately, we don't have Hurts and some of the other elite signal callers, but Mahomes is still here. They're not coming in with much ownership, at least projected. You're getting a lot of that funneled down to this like weird mid-range with Watson and Jordan Love and some of these players. So it's a spot I do like just because these quarterbacks can separate. And I think they're pretty easy to stack. You basically have to forego one of the elite receivers, one of the elite running backs, and then you can make it work. So Lamar in particular, I think is easier to stack than Mahomes. You can go to a Zay Flowers pretty easily. If you think it's a Mark Andrews bounce back, that's nice. Mahomes, we've talked about him a lot, Eric. He's just hard to stack outside of Kelsey after they decided to run a pure rotation at receiver, which I think persists even with Justin Watson inactive. I think maybe we even see like more snaps for Justin Ross. So it's still tough to get Mahomes, in my opinion, which is why I end up with more Allen and more Lamar.
Yeah, and the McCole Hardman thing comes in. He'll maybe rotate a couple. Again, want to get some clarification there. Nothing official there in that afternoon window, but I guess there's one other quarterback at the top that we didn't discuss, and I know the guys had talked about him on the previous show. Lamar Jackson ended up getting steamed up quite a bit throughout the week. Going to be somebody who ends up being pretty popular relative to what I was expecting for this slate. Might end up being somebody who's even the most popular guy amongst these 7K and up quarterbacks. Yeah, that isn't going to be something I want to do if he's going to be chalk. Lamar Jackson as a 2-3% always feels fun. How are you planning to utilize him, if at all?
We're pretty different on this. A lot of the industry is Lamar really low owned. And if you run optimizers, you run a lot of projections, you're not getting him at all. So that's interesting to see. I don't know who is right and who is wrong. But I mean, if you just build lineups, it's not comfortable playing Lamar, which makes me think we're a little high on him in terms of ownership projection. So I'm going to play him. We'll see if I'm right on this. I'm on an island, it seems. But I think he's pretty easy to stack with that game. And it just so happens that's my favorite game for tournaments. So I think we might be projecting a little bit more ownership on Lamar than is actually seen. It's a tough match for him. Detroit's a very good defense. They've been had over the top plenty of times, actually. They had the 2 tough matchups in weeks 1 and 2. And since then, you've seen them just play a slew of horrible quarterbacks, including, like Baker Mayfield, Desmond Ridder. So their pass defense, I think, looks a little more inflated than it might be had they actually faced some decent competition. I mean, like Bryce Young's in there. They've had 4 straight cupcake quarterbacks come their way against a pretty good defense, but I still think we might be overrating them a bit.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, it just comes down to I'm obsessed with this range. As we get down to the stacks that I can build out with Stafford, Puka Nacua, going to be a contrarian piece that I'm going to be playing quite a bit today. Jared Goff in that same exact matchup on the other side, maybe has to throw it around the lot a little bit more than even the Detroit Lions want, considering no David Montgomery out there for today. Jahmyr Gibbs going to be a huge part of the running back slate. Excited to talk through him and how the Sims tool is kind of applying to my process with that. Geno Smith going to be crazy popular at 6K. I mean, I just have so much of these 3. And then 2 guys sitting right below it there that we'll talk about next in the 5K range. I mean, that is like a majority of my builds out of 150, out of the 20 max, out of pretty much anything I'm doing in 5 max, 3 max stuff. I'm just playing these guys a bunch. What are you planning to do?
Yeah, this is the owned range, in my opinion, because of everything you mentioned. Doesn't mean you can't build with them. There's plenty of other ways to get contrarian. It's owned for a reason. They project well, and your lineups, I think they're a little more balanced just because you have signal callers that still have ceilings, but that money you save off of like a Lamar, it gets you somewhere. It gets you up to an extra Cup, Nacua, Diggs, whatever you prefer to do, a running back like a Jacobs or something. All that money goes somewhere. And it's been a very popular and profitable build, honestly, so far this year. So I have no issues with these players. I think it just depends on where you decide to take your leverage. In this range, my favorite is Stafford for the leverage he provides. Among the most owned quarterbacks, in my opinion, are going to be Geno and Watson. Nothing against them. Good game environments on both sides. Watson's coming off the injury, so you do have some health concerns. But you got to pick and choose your leverage spots. For me, it's going to be Stafford in this range for every reason you mentioned. Kupp, Nacua, they're awesome receivers. And then being down all of your top running backs, and Sean McVay doesn't seem too excited about playing any of these runners. It should be a very pass-heavy script for Matthew Stafford in this spot. He's my favorite leverage quarterback in this range.
Yeah, I love Stafford today. Geno Smith, I'm obsessed with as well. And obviously, it's very easy to maneuver those lineups around. And there's one big piece of news that is existing in that late window of games. That DK Metcalf injury situation says true game time decision for him. If he ends up being out, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, I'm going to have the most amount of those 2 out of any wide receiver on the entire board, and I don't think it's close. I'm kind of limiting some of the exposure I'm getting to early wide receivers just in case that news breaks my way. And then, well, I'll want to play DK Metcalf if he suits up at 6,800 against the Arizona secondary. I think he would be extremely contrarian and extremely fun to land on at extremely low ownership. So I will be playing Geno Smith, and I'm not going to be concrete with what my quarterback ownership is going to be in that afternoon window because it is definitely TBD. And, well, want to get confirmation from the Green Bay side as well, and that's where Jordan Love. I'm not a huge Jordan Love stan. I think he's a lot better than I anticipated him to be. He's been good from a fantasy perspective, at least from the get-go there. Ran into some issues in that primetime Vegas game, no doubt about it. But otherwise, had put up over 19.5 DK points in every single game, including that Detroit blowout where, well, he was kind of forced into chucking it around the lot a little bit more than LaFleur might have wanted. But as I'm looking at Jordan Love here with the weapons back, Aaron Jones is so important to this team. You have Christian Watson, another week of health, going to just play more and more and more and get unleashed. I think he's going to be a contrarian piece for me as well. Love getting to him. And then if Deshaun Watson's going to suit up, I think you got to have some actual interest there going up against this Indy secondary that is nothing special. How are you feeling about the 5K range? Kick it off with those 2.
Yeah, it's a great range, and it's not too hard to pivot down from the Geno Smiths of the world to get to this range. In tow with Geno and Deshaun Watson, I think you're going to see a lot of ownership on Love and Russell Wilson. It's the second best game on the slate, second highest total. Neither defense particularly scares you, especially on the Denver side. Green Bay they've been up and down, but they've gotten some guys back from injury. Then they've lost some more. Devondre Campbell not looking like he's going to play today. So this should be a pretty popular game. Love is kind of tricky, and I think he's one in particular you can build around because you should see some ownership come in on Musgrave at tight end. How you pivot away from that, I think, is going to be key for tournaments. Watson's back. I think he's a play you could move to. Same price range as like a Lockett. So you're going to see players in that like $5.5K to $6K range be pretty owned. You stack Love and Watson. I think that's going to be contrarian. And then if you go to anybody not named Musgrave or Watson in the past game, like Reed, Dobbs, nobody's clicking those players. None of them project that well. They're just straight up leverage plays. But I think there are a lot of unique ways to use Love in this range, even though he himself is probably going to be pretty owned here. I don't have as much love on the Wilson side, but his pass catchers aren't particularly expensive either.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that it is going to be contrarian pieces on the Green Bay side, getting to Dobbs, trying to get leverage off of Musgrave's ownership, off of, some of the other pieces. And Aaron Jones is going to be somebody that I click on way more than I should today. That is for sure. But before we get to the cheapies, a couple of super chats. Want to get everything caught up. First off, Jay Murphy, $2. Hold my hand, Matt. It's beautiful stuff. That was the best rant ever. I was dying. And Matt Gajewski's funny. Orion, $1.99. FanDuel GPP, Javonte and Bateman, or Keontae Ingram and OBJ. I have zero interest in Keontae Ingram, period. End of story. So the first one. How about you, Matt?
Yeah, I would rebuild. I don't have interest in anyone in this 2v2.
Yeah. I'm Javonte
sorry.
Bateman, I would definitely prefer over Ingram, OBJ. So to answer the question, I would definitely prefer the first one, even if I don't have those guys.
Yeah, I don't even know how much Bateman plays, dude. He got beat out by Aguilar.
All right. Don't move to Texas. That's funny. $5. Lamar playable with no stack considering the wind forecast. I'm not even necessarily familiar with what he is talking about here. What is going on with the wind in Baltimore? Because the weather looks decent to me across.
Yeah, latest projections, 15-mile-an-hour winds. So normal day.
Yeah, that's Baltimore in October.
Yeah, a little breezy, but I mean, people constantly overblow the weather. If it's not a monsoon or hurricane, I do not care at all. If anything, it helps you because people have this opinion.
Yeah, Michael Hawks, $5. Appreciate you guys. Really appreciate the super chats. Thoughts on skinny stacking Herbert with a double run back from Kansas City and 3-entry max? Absolutely. Highest total game on the slate. Skinny stacking Herbert is going to be the only way that I really have any Herbert today. I'm going to be playing with him with either Eckler or him with Keenan Allen, primarily Keenan Allen. Palmer was somebody that I thought I would get to a ton coming off the Thursday matchup show that I did with Loughy and that I do every single Thursday with Loughy. I didn't end up really landing there, and I think that's a little bit of a mistake, maybe as I'm going back through, but he ended up pretty popular, got steamed up. And so now it's just a little bit of a different play than what it was on Thursday. Maybe I shouldn't think about that too much, but I like the idea of skinny stacking. He's obviously cheap exposure to that game, but it's cheap exposure that everybody wants to get to that game. We have him at 14%. I'm seeing places with 18, 20% projected ownership on him. It is a wild time to be alive that Josh Palmer is pulling that, but here we are. How you feeling about the skinny stacking Herbert today?
I think that's completely fine. What I think will help you if you're using Palmer in that is he mentioned 2 Chiefs run backs. I think a lot of people will choose one, whether it's Kelsey, Pacheco, but the second you use 2, I think that's what makes your construction contrarian and why I don't even hate using Palmer if that's the route you decide to take. And you probably will use Palmer. I'm guessing you're not going down to like MVS Tony or something. Like when I hear you're using Herbert skinny stack, you're probably running back Kelsey, Pacheco, more than likely. So I am guessing you don't have enough for Keenan or Eckler.
Yeah, unless Rashee Rice is your chosen.
He's not even cheap. He's like
not
5K.
Cheap.
He's 4.7.
Yeah, I was saying that kind of facetiously.
Okay. Yeah. Some of that's lost on me. I apologize.
It's okay. You're adorable and you are loved. Anyway, Race Fan 22, $1.99. Thoughts on Waller today? He's a dude who is going to be playing tight end for the New York Football Giants. That is my opinion of him.
Yeah, it's Kelsey and everyone else. He's no different than Musgrave to me. Yep. He could fall in the end zone or Musgrave could, and you're paying like 2K more for him. The only difference is you might be the only person in your tournament that has Waller. So that's the only thing to really note there. But yeah, he's the same play as Michael Mayer.
He is the same. Yeah. Tight end is wild for me now. I'm going to get to way more David Njoku now with Watson out there. it's going to be gross if you get what you. I mean, it's been a bad year. Been a bad year to have those shares in best ball. But we continue on. Let's round out the quarterback position here, and then we'll talk a little bit of Hall of Fame. It's going to be great stuff for you. Great opportunity for you guys to get some goodness here, getting a month of Stochastic Platinum just by checking out an avatar. But we'll talk about that in a second. Rest of the quarterback position on the cheap end. We got some weirdos out there today. Brian Hoyer exists. He's a person who will be playing football at 4,900. Kenny Pickett against the Rams. Maybe I have to land on more than I want. I do have a lot of Deontay Johnson. That is somebody in the Sims that's popping up. And again, I don't know how to go out and analyze hamstring injuries. Cooper Kupp played like 100% of snaps there after the fact. Then there's guys like Aaron Jones who get extremely limited. It's a case-by-case basis. I'm just kind of straddling the center there, and I'm landing on Deontay Johnson because of a price tag at $5K. So Kenny Pickett, maybe he comes along for the ride a little bit more. Any cheapies that you're finding yourself getting to more than the rest of the field here, sub 5,500?
The main player is Dobbs.
Okay.
Pretty good game environment for Dobbs. He runs way more than he ever has in his career. And my experience with Dobbs is mainly in NFL preseason where he's been horrific. But the thing that he has is volume. So at 5.3K, he doesn't need to be that efficient. He's been over 40 attempts multiple times this year. He runs more than I ever thought he would. He's in the best game environment. You want an easy pivot away from all of the Seattle chalk, or maybe even just a contrarian way to use it. You can play Dobbs, and he's one of the lowest owned pieces from this game. He's stackable very easily. You know exactly where the targets are going. You hope they just actually make it there. But yeah, I think he's interesting in this game environment. He's my favorite cheapie. Otherwise, looking at some guys like Howell, I mean, maybe his best matchup he'll face all year. I know people really like the Giants defense because Howell takes a lot of sacks. The problem is they don't really rush the passer, so something's got to give here. Maybe Howell continues to take sacks. Maybe he scrambles. I don't know what it is, but he's worth throwing a dart on, I think. They have a really high pass rate over expectation in Washington.
Going to be a fun one there. I think that game is just sneaky. Washington Giants, what a time to be alive. Saquon Barkley, I'm liking because of ownership. Terry McLaurin, Dotson, so cheap to be able to throw into lineups there with Howell. I'm with you. I think we can take some shots there for sure. Just like you could take a shot on the Stochastic Avatar. And if you shoot your shot in a tournament and end up taking down the W, we're talking 5,000 contestants or more, $1 or more, top 3 in the contest. If you have the avatar, you tweet it at Stochastic Hall of Fame. Get yourself a free month. Yes, a free month of all the tools that we have here behind the paywall. Stochastic Platinum. That is good stuff. So simply do the stuff on the screen. It's really simple. It's really easy. And well, I like free stuff. I bet you would like free stuff too. Pretty easy to make this happen. Good luck today. Let's take down some GPPs and we can fire up those Stochastic avatars together. Again, at Stochastic HOF, tweet your wins, my friends. We continue to the running back position. This is insane. Kenneth Walker, I think without a doubt, is in the best spot going up against Arizona. No Zach Charbonnet expected. I believe he is already announced as out for that game. Josh Jacobs pulling ownership here as well. Isaiah Pacheco. We got some guys that they're chalky here. And Jahmyr Gibbs came along for the ride here too, even though we only have him at 15.5%. I've seen him really popular other places here as well. Out of these chalky backs, Matt, who are you the most comfortable being overweight to the field on?
It's got to be Walker. I think this is some pretty good chalk. Matchup just is so good. Big favorites against Arizona, pathetic defense. And now without Charbonnet, there's really nobody else. Maybe you see a touch for DJ Dallas here or there. But I mean, Walker's in the full driver's seat of this offense. But one of the best game environments on the slate as well. I honestly think we might be a little light on his projection ownership-wise at 26.5%. In smaller fields, I anticipate that condenses. But even with that said, he still might be a player to come in overweight on just because the projection separates so much. And it's not a great running back slate. I think we have maybe a big 5 or 6 that we feel comfortable price adjusted wise. But then we're pretty lacking on pivots. We get to timeshare backs, guys with really hard matchups, poor game environments quickly. And that's just kind of the slate we live in today. A lot of really greasy games.
A lot of greasy games for sure. A running back position, there's no better chalk on this slate, I think, than Kenneth Walker.
Agreed.
I'm going to play a lot of him.
Same.
It's just build out the rest of your lineups elsewhere. Why is Jerome Ford pulling more ownership here in our refresh? This is wild stuff. I do not want to play Jerome Ford in any
That's not
way,
going to be true.
shape, or form. I have zero desire. I know he's cheap. I know it looks really nice to have him in your lineups there. And hey, if he finds the box, good for you. I'm not going to be going that direction. That is for darn tootin'. But we are looking at some other backs on the top end that are great pivots. Austin Eckler, 11.1% ownership, comes back from injury. Didn't look great against Dallas. Nothing really looked great against Dallas there on the Charger side, besides Keenan Allen. He keeps on rolling. Saquon Barkley, sub 10% against a Washington team that I think you do kind of have the ability to get vertical with, but that's not going to happen with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback unless, it is the end of the world, which I don't know. It's in play. Saquon Barkley, 8,100. Going to have some contrarian shares of him, but Austin Eckler is the guy I'm really kind of keyed in on. I want to get your opinion. How are you handling him in the highest total game on the slate?
I love Eckler. I had a hard time building with him, so I was curious how you were getting to him. Go ahead.
No, you're good. I just think it's a good conversation point because I think this is the guy that you kind of want to prioritize in some of those builds where it's the cheapies. We're looking at Sam Howell plus McLaurin plus Logan Thomas. It's easy to land on Austin Eckler there. And we're talking about the guy who just scored touchdown after touchdown all of last season, even this year, got out of the gate ridiculously hot in week 1, ends up being out for a long time with that ankle injury. And well, he gets back week 6, gets the same role. Nothing's changed. Only thing that changed is that he goes from 7.3 yards per carry against Miami to 1.9 against Dallas. Good Lord, that's different, but Kansas City, they're not Dallas. I know their defense has been a lot better than we expected. I think they're sneaky good on the defensive side of the football. Super Bowl champions, you can't have a non-zero defense, that's for sure. But I like Austin Eckler here in some of those builds. Finding myself to some Jordan Love builds as I'm looking at my 5 max. He's in my Jordan Love build that I have here. Not really showing up a ton in the Sims, and I don't think you're going to ever see these guys on the top end of the range popping in the Sims tool unless it's just a can't-miss home run spot. But he has a home run can't-miss kind of role on this football team.
Yeah, that's almost exactly how I was getting him. I get him a lot in one-offs, or if you're just doing like a mini correlation, say Eckler to Pacheco, Eckler to Kelsey, something like that. And then there's a lot of cheap quarterbacks, and I think that's just price-driven. The second you start playing, Mahomes, Kelsey, Eckler, you're punting almost everywhere else in your lineup. Or even if you play him with Herbert's 8K. So now you're allocating, a ton of your salary to those two players. And then you don't even have a pass catcher. You certainly can't do Herbert, Eckler, Keenan Allen, and then have like a live Chiefs run back. You're probably looking at like MVS or something in those builds. So he's tricky, but I think there are ways to use him. It's mainly going to be in that single quarterback, or I guess I should say cheap quarterback build, with maybe just a Chiefs run back on the other side, not named Mahomes.
Yeah, that's kind of the way that it feels for me too, my friend. Riley Teixeira, $5. FanDuel 2v2. Lamar is his quarterback. Flowers and Njoku and versus Gibbs Musgrave. I love Flowers and Njoku on the front end of that one.
Me as well.
Awesome. Like when we have the consensus. Makes it easy. James Foster, $1.99. Thoughts on A. Jones? Got lots of exposure. Nervous. Me too, my friend. Me too. Well-timed super chat because Aaron Jones is projected for 12.5% ownership. And you know what Denver doesn't do? Anything good defensively. And Aaron Jones, his involvement in the passing game when healthy, his involvement with the ground game when healthy, taking on a defense that it isn't just that 70-20 beatdown that does kind of make me think that some of these numbers are a little bit overblown. But like, we're talking about a dude who is so special at the running back position. I, as a Vikings fan, hate admitting such things because if he's healthy and he is getting more of a full-time role, AJ Dillon, maybe they do just mix him in a little bit more than I'm expecting in this event. But if he's a full go, and they've been very cautious with him, I think he has so much upside going into Denver here at 6,800. What are you planning to do with Aaron Jones specifically?
Yeah, I'm playing him a lot. What it comes down to, you're not going to feel good clicking him just because you don't know the health, and nobody does outside of that training room. He's not owned enough if he has the full role, which is where it comes down to for me. Nobody's going to know, but if you get full Aaron Jones, he should be more owned. He should be more expensive. His role is going to be really good, and he's the best playmaker Green Bay has in arguably the best matchup he's going to have all year. My approach is going to be play Aaron Jones. If he burns me, I know that on the front end. I very much know that's in the range of outcomes, but we're shooting for ceilings here. If we finish last, what's the difference between last and a min cash?
If you ain't first, you're last. Hell, Ricky, I was high when I said that.
Ricky Bobby, I know that one. I got your...
We got a movie quote. We got a movie quote for Gajewski.
You used the How I Met Your Mother one earlier, too. Didn't you? That was a Barney thing.
You've gotten both my references today?
You didn't even ask me, but I actually knew that first one, too.
Okay, it is the end of the world. This is not great.
You should put more in the Millie Maker. I think you're shipping today with this.
I think I will now. Let's talk the rest of the running back position here. Zach Moss, Jonathan Taylor still in a timeshare. Not going to try to figure it out here on this slate today. Isaiah Pacheco pulling quite a bit of ownership there in that game environment, rightfully so. This whole range from 5,500 to 6,500 has some pieces, but I think they're a little bit volatile pieces of chalk. Jahmyr Gibbs for sure. Isaiah Pacheco a little bit less so. Brian Robinson now pulling 10.5% against the Giants. Where are we kind of going in this range? And obviously I kept Javonte Williams out of that range here on purpose because I want to talk about him.
Yeah, I'm not going to Brian Robinson, that's for sure.
Nope.
But I think you're right on this chalk is fragile. Pacheco, Ford, Gibbs, I think you could poke a hole in all of them. I'm still playing a healthy amount of all of them, but with Pacheco, a lot of people around the industry are referencing his increased share on third downs. He's playing a little bit more. His snap share is as high as it's ever been. And this number is still just like barely crossing 60%. So you still have McKinnon involved. And my question is, they've just been winning games. They've won 5 straight. This is a very competitive matchup against LA. If they're down in this game or very close and they have to use like hurry up, 4-minute offense, 2-minute offense, do we think that's Pacheco?
No.
I don't know. I would think McKinnon probably sees an uptick in snaps in those situations, which, I mean, this is not the last 4 played Chicago, New York, the Jets, Minnesota, and Denver. Far more likely they're down or in very competitive spots against the Chargers than any of those 4 games. Like, we just drew up the ultimate 4-game run for Pacheco in the history of DFS. Now it's a much different matchup. So it's at least a question. I understand why Pacheco is very popular. He's not very expensive. His role is good. He has the base downs on lock. But I think there are more questions than this ownership indicates. And with Gibbs, like, just when we saw Montgomery out the first time, Gibbs handled an awesome workload, got him hurt. How does the coaching staff feel about that? I don't know. I think he probably goes right back because their alternatives are poor. But I don't know what Dan Campbell's thinking. We've seen him do a lot of weird things at running back in the past. So I think it's far from safe. But ultimately, I agree with the projections. I understand why it's coming in. But if you're looking for a pivot spot, this could be something to look at. And this is also why I think Walker's the best chalk of the running backs. Just very hard to poke a hole in Walker when you could with the other guys.
I'm with you. I will say on OwnersBox, Jahmyr Gibbs, just to round out the conversation on him as well, he's at 5,700, a little bit of a different play there for OwnersBox, which, speaking of, wanted to check in, see how the overlay situation is going on over there. Professor Jordan Klein. I don't know why I said professor. It's a weird one. It's a weird one. Oh, no. He just looks smarter today than normal. Must be the haircut. 54% full. That's fantastic stuff. Like, fantastic for you. I want OwnersBox to build because, again, I want them to be a successful company because they're fantastic. They've been extremely helpful in helping us put together everything for you here. We've been able to just CSV upload, get everything done for you over in the contest generator. Yes, the Sims tool, live, ready for action in OwnersBox. If you've got that, I would be checking out OwnersBox with 54% full right now in the main contest. Yeah, no better place to put your money here in the next 52 minutes leading up to lock than at OwnersBox. Oh, there's a little fuzzy. It's better than a mosquito the other day, but let's keep it rocking. Running back, cheapies, Javonte Williams, 5,400.
I don't have a lot of this range. It sounds like you do.
No, it's just, I'm trying to convince myself to click on Ramondre Stevenson and Javonte Williams because 1, they're both pretty talented. 2, nobody's going to roster them. And 3, I think the way that you get after both these teams is on the ground. You've got, 133.7 rushing yards per game going up against the Buffalo Bills. That's 25th in the NFL. That's against, Buffalo's just not good at stopping the run here. And on the other side, Green Bay is like horrendous at stopping the run. Again, a little bit of an outlier performance there for David Montgomery going up against them, but still 143.4 on the ground. Eventually, Javonte Williams is going to run with this backfield again. It's going to happen. I know McLaughlin has been decent enough that they want to get him some touches, and now it feels like, who's the kid out of Colorado who was in Denver that played at Colorado that was just a headache for Denver? Phillip Lindsay, my God. This feels a little bit like that situation. And then you have Samaje Perine, who you know can get some involvement in the passing game, although he did not see a lot of snaps there in week 6 against Kansas City. A little bit surprising to me, but 5,400, I'm getting the right kind of a price and the right kind of ownership to try to take some stabs on Javonte Williams. Are you as crazy as me?
I don't think so.
Okay, cool. I was aware of that already.
This range is really hard for me. I like what you said about Ramondre. I was talked earlier this morning. Matchup is good. Ezekiel Elliott stinks. Ramondre has been injured, so I think that explains some of the reduced workload we've seen recently from him. But the pass game role for Ramondre is pretty good. I don't feel good about it, but this range is full of landmines. We could go through them one by one. Obviously, Ford is the most chalky piece of this group. And now the hole you poke in Ford is Kareem Hunt is active. I still think Ford's a pretty good play. Indy doesn't scare me, and Ford's better than Kareem Hunt. Just watch them play. You'll see it. But otherwise, we're looking at like Rashad White's carrying a decent amount of ownership. Keyshawn Vaughn played a ton in their last game. Foreman's another guy carrying ownership. He might just get straight up out-touched by Darrington Evans. I don't know. Chicago doesn't seem particularly interested in him. And then the other players are like Javonte in a 3-way timeshare, Najee in a timeshare with Warren. This is a pretty gross range, so I'm trying not to land here as much as I can.
Last guy to talk about, Royce Freeman, 4K on DraftKings.com. Are you clicking the button at all?
Nah, I X'd him out.
I did too. I feel really, I understand people want to get to this situation when it's a flat 4K guy who could walk himself into a timeshare, but maybe on FanDuel where touchdowns get rewarded and you're looking somebody near the min, but like for me, I can't do it on DraftKings. I need more. I need clearly more upside. Obviously, we don't have Darrell Henderson in the player pool at all. So if it looks like there's only 3 backs there in Gaskin, Evans, and Freeman, don't forget about Mr. Henderson. He's out there hanging out, so it's a problem for me. Can't land on anything there from the Rams side, but I think that does it at the running back position unless there's anything you want to touch on.
I guess we kind of glossed over Jacobs and Bijan. I saw a little bit of chatter about them in the chat. Somebody said outside Walker, Jacobs might be the best piece of chalk. I don't know if he's going to be that chalky. We haven't projected highly, but just the way I built lineups, it's hard to jam 2 7K running backs. Most of the builds I got were Walker and then some combination of like Pacheco, Gibbs, and these mid-range guys below Jacobs. But I think if you can fit them both, they're awesome. I do agree that Jacobs is pretty solid chalk if he ends up being owned. Roll's awesome. Chicago's terrible on defense. And you got Brian Hoyer under center. I think the Raiders would be pretty smart to ride Jacobs. Bijan, I think, is a good pivot, just to briefly touch on him. His role is quietly really good. Even with the timeshare, Algier plays a lot, but they just run the ball so much. Bijan gets a lot of work. And then if they fall behind, Bijan is basically playing wide receiver. So I like him as well as a pivot.
All right. I don't completely hate it, but I'm not going to do it. So I don't know what to make of that.
I mean, it's not like let me see how much Bijan I have. It's not a lot.
Yeah, I'm curious because for me, I just strongly prefer the chalk of 7K Walker, 7,400 Jacobs. Those are 2 pieces of chalk. Not as much with the Jacobs. I'm just slightly overweight there, but Kenneth Walker, I have an infinite amount of, and unless something catastrophic happens to my lineups in the early window, or something where I just need to be pivoting off of something chalky there at running back because I already got all of the production in a couple of lineups that I needed, I will then pivot away and just do it from a leverage or a ownership perspective. But again, late swap, always a part of my process, especially on these 10-game slates with 4 in the afternoon window, where I don't know if anybody noticed, but those are the 4 highest total games on the entire slate period today. So using 7,300 for a running back there that isn't Josh Jacobs, it's tougher.
Yeah, I just looked. I'll be about even with the field. I thought I would be a little overweight, but he's coming in around 8%. So it's actually not the stand I thought I was making. I'm by far most overweight to Walker. And then Jacobs, I'm a little bit overweight too. Nothing crazy with him.
Rounding out running back, favorite tournament play, period, relative to ownership.
Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I think I'm very, very nervous. Nothing like being mad at the Green Bay Packers for existing anyway. Yay. Skull. Tomorrow's going to go well, right?
No, who do they play?
The 49ers. That'll be fun. And McCaffrey sounds like he's good to go.
Yeah, I saw that. Tough
life. But not a tough life if you're checking out OwnersBox, friends. That's because of Overlay, as Jordan had just thrown out there before, 55%. That is a ridiculous number that we have for Overlay sitting in that main event for you. Now, lots of things that you're going to get along for the ride when you sign up over at OwnersBox. You're going to get yourself a $250 first match deposit bonus. That is great stuff. You have to deposit $10 at least, so $10 or more, but up to $250. If you deposit that in, you're getting $250 back from them. It gets released as OwnersBox. It's good stuff, though. You want to be signing up and getting access to it and signing up for this tournament today. Because again, Overlay is your friend. It's how you build and sustain a bankroll in this industry. Whether you're starting, whether you're a veteran of the DFS game, I promise you, you want to be attacking Overlay on the daily, and that's where you're going to find it. OwnersBox right now. You can sign up at the link, get that first match deposit bonus, get yourself also a lot of great other things. You get a $5 lightning lineup to try out that, another $5 contest ticket. So a pretty low barometer there in $10 for your minimum deposit, up to $250. Lots of range there for you, depending on what your bankroll is to be able to sign up and get some good stuff over at OwnersBox right now. So take advantage of it. We also are giving you a free week of our new Sims Max package to try out when you do it. That's $199. $199 to get that. That is probably the best of everything here. Everybody's talking about The Sims, whether it's on shows, whether it's on Twitter/X, doesn't matter what your name is. You are getting yourself opportunity to check out The Sims product at a very low cost just by signing up over at OwnersBox. So take advantage of it. Pretty good deal when you compare the price there for what it would be for you just to sign up and try out their goodness. So thank you to OwnersBox for their sponsorship of our little program, but specifically thank you to them for putting the players first and getting you guys Overlay day in, day out over at OwnersBox, week in, week out in the NFL streets. Alrighty, y'all. Let's get to wide receiver here in a second. But first, we had 4.2K people hanging out here. High point of the entire stream. Smash that like button. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you hanging out with us, choosing to utilize us here on your Sundays, talking you through the process that Matt and I have to try to make the best DFS lineups possible. And hey, utilizing the best tools in the industry here at Stochastic to help us do it. Just smash that like button. We have a $5 super chat. Actually, it's 5 loonies, if you will. Canadian money. Matt, I missed your take on Tyson Bagent. Do you think he can do better than Fields as a passer? Do you guys consider this a downgrade for DJ Moore? Yes.
I think it's a downgrade. I don't think we brought him up. Yeah, I won't be playing. Yeah, I won't be playing Bagent. He's a D2 player. Like this is a guy I didn't even know in college till he started getting some hype after the season on like the off season, like Senior Bowl circuit, stuff like that. And then somehow he hung around a roster. Like I thought this guy was going to be in like the XFL or something, but here he is thrown to DJ Moore. I would be shocked if these are catchable targets DJ Moore is going to see. You never know. They should be throwing a ton. They're going to lose this game, but I don't know, man. Pretty tough to evaluate Bagent.
So I had some iced coffee and I ended up swallowing a piece of ice. And let me just tell you, that was not enjoyable.
I hate ice and coffee.
I love ice and coffee.
I don't like ice.
I love ice, but not swallowing ice on accident. Like
that's
when a little
problem.
Thing goes down, it's not good.
Anyway. Not here for ice takes.
You're here for fire takes. No, we're
like
just
David Njoku.
There it is. Mason, $5. Jackson Smith or Wandale, DK Cash, nervous about DK news. Here you go. This is why, again, you have so much goodness in the afternoon window here. I would be building out my cash because you absolutely need Jackson Smith and Jigba in cash if there is no DK Metcalf. Can you agree with that, Matt Gajewski?
Yeah, I think you should be planning it into your process, whatever it is. Luckily, all the best games are in the afternoon, so you shouldn't really have trouble with this, I think. Plus, there's like a million pivots if DK plays. I was worried about this to begin the slate. Like, what do we do if we have to pivot off of Jackson Smith and Jigba? Luckily, you got a ton of guys I think are usable.
Yeah. So here's the best way of putting this. I have zero interest in Wan'Dale Robinson in cash. Zero. Full stop.
If you love 8 targets, 4 catches, and 30 yards, he's your guy.
I'll play Josh Palmer every single time, every single day, nonstop. And then again, Jackson Smith and Jigba could be the best tournament play on the entire slate in the event that you get DK Metcalf out. I just firmly believe it. You should have that built into your lineups immediately. There should be no doubt whatsoever that if you see DK Metcalf out, a $3,900 Jackson Smith and Jigba, he will be my highest owned player, period, full stop. That's just what it's going to be. AI Butts, $2. Any wind concern in Baltimore and DC today? I just looked up some of the weather stuff. We talked about that a little bit earlier. 15 miles per hour. It's not gonna get me off of anything, but I don't really have a ton of Lamar Jackson as is. I have some Zay Flowers like everybody else. I have some Mark Andrews, which we'll get to the tight end position. It's interesting today. But any win concern for you, Matt? You said no.
No, I am not afraid of this.
There you go.
No
He's
fear
afraid of
in
no
my
ghosts.
heart.
He's not afraid of no ghosts. That's Ghostbusters. Okay. Now
I don't know, Eric. We're losing.
See, I'm telling you, who'd have thunk it? Now I'm disappointed. Last one. He actually $5 earlier. Mr. Cool Cam 97, favorite QB for FanDuel single entry today. Great question. FanDuel a little bit different for me, but I'm still going to throw out Jordan Love. I am a sick person.
I like Lamar even more over there. It's just a price thing. He's more affordable on FanDuel. He'll be chalkier, so remember this. But, I mean, is he going to be chalkier? Apparently, everyone's scared of Wynn now.
I'm not.
I'm not
going to play him anyway, so that's cool. To the wide receiver position we go. To the top end we go. Cooper Kupp. He is playing really good football after 2 weeks, out on the field a bunch. Hamstring looks like a thing of the past, fingers crossed. Now, we all say that, knock on wood. That's a wooden desk. Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen, Devontae Adams, 8K, Amon-Ra St. Brown. We'll keep it there. 8K and up. There's one guy that I'm getting to a lot. I'm wondering if you can guess who that is.
It sounds like it's Kupp.
It's not.
Is it Diggs?
Nope.
It's got to be Keenan.
Nope.
Okay, I don't know. Adams is the only other one.
I know. And I do think this is like the most squeaky wheel, non-data driven take I've probably ever going to throw out on the show. And I'm probably going to get banished from everywhere. All I know is you can take 100 yards plus over at DK Sportsbook and anytime touchdown and make that nearly plus 500 on Devontae Adams today. I'm telling you, Brian Hoyer is starting today because he can force feed Devontae Adams with this squeaky wheel narrative. They've won back-to-back games here for the Vegas Raiders. Shout out to my guy, Sweet Lou Rodriguez, my guy. Go Raiders. I feel like Devontae Adams is going to just go nuts on this Bears secondary, and that he is truly, they're going away from Aidan O'Connell, who just basically became captain check down, the likes of which Derek Carr would have been proud. But you are looking at Josh Jacobs, who had gotten 11 targets there alongside Aidan O'Connell. Let's just transfer those to a veteran quarterback. And then I'm over projecting Devontae Adams, it would seem, far higher than anybody else in the industry. And it's got me a little bit nervous, a little bit worried. But for tournaments, large field tournaments, he is one of those early pieces in the early window that I'm just like, man, I know I'm going to have my built-in Kupp, Allen. I'll be able to see what some of the ownership is there on Diggs. I'll play him in some of those Josh Allen skinnies in 150, but I really don't have a lot of Josh Allen at all. I just feel like this is a Devontae Adams, he's Devontae Adams kind of a spot.
I have no issues with that. Big concern for me is just Hoyer, and I think they run Jacobs into the ground. I think Adams is also playing through injury. I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo is just throwing this guy hospital ball after hospital ball. Volume's going to be there. But I mean, like, is his volume going to separate from Diggs, from Kupp, from any of these guys? If you're just, your rationale is volume, like, don't other people have volume in better game environments on this slate? If your argument is just straight leverage, I get it.
That's more of the argument. Is that I see 5.6% ownership, and I'm just like, yo, Aidan O'Connell isn't starting, and there has to be a reason, because Aidan O'Connell, like, yeah, he didn't go out and win him a football game, but like this would feel like a spot where, I mean, why are we going to Brian Hoyer here? It feels like we could get just force-fed 15 targets for Devontae Adams, and we'll look back at this and be like, oh my God, I got a 3%, 2% Devontae Adams in 3 max, 5 max tournaments today. what a time to be alive. Like, what a time to be alive. But anyway, everybody else is a phenomenal play here in this range. If you can get up to Allen, Diggs, Kupp, there's not a single thing that I can poke in any of their, I guess, ownership for Kupp at 9,500 is a little alarming because he's really got to get there against a Pittsburgh defense that hasn't really given up a whole lot to wide receivers. Fourth fewest fantasy points in DK scoring over the course of this season so far. What are you? How are you handling Cooper Kupp at this ownership?
I don't think he's going to be that owned. I like Cooper Kupp.
That would be awesome because then he would be my favorite play on the slate.
Dude, like, how do you play him? He's really hard to get to, especially if you're like jamming all these other plays. I don't think he's this. Like, it sounds like people. I guess you can jam Cooper Kupp as a single guy, but I think we should be prioritizing like good stacks and stuff. I could be wrong on this, but he is an alternative in the same game in Puka Nacua at a much cheaper price and lower projected ownership. I mean, we've got like Diggs on this slate, Keenan Allen on this slate who are pulling less ownership. Those guys are in better situations. So maybe I'm wrong on this and Kupp does come in a little more owned, but I think this is going to be a little flatter. Ultimately, I'm trying to play the elite receivers. That doesn't really bother me. Even if he is 21.5%, it's not really that much. But there's a difference in price between Kupp, Diggs, Keenan Allen, and every dollar goes somewhere, which is why I was a little hesitant. Kupp at 9,500. It's very expensive.
Did you see Puka Nacua, his price over on FanDuel today?
Yes.
So you just kind of play Puka Nacua and figure out everything else, right?
You kind of have to, don't you?
I think you do. I mean, he is just, this is 7,300 and relative to every other wide receiver there, again, his touchdown equity, I mean, it's just insane how much I would be playing him if I were playing FanDuel today. So just wanted to throw that out there here as we get to Puka Nacua because, well, I think I'm going to have a lot of him as is over on DK, even at the more expensive price. And that's going to be a leverage piece. It'll obviously be something where I play Stafford in doubles, Nacua Kupp. That was a fun proposition 2 weeks ago. Not such a fun proposition last week against Arizona. They didn't really need to put the foot on the gas. So they didn't with Nacua, and Cooper Kupp just kind of said, let me go win you a football game quick. And then they ran Kyren Williams into the ground and Ronnie Rivers into the ground, and who'd have thunk it? Now we're just stuck with some real trash heaps there in that backfield. So that'll be fun. But the rest of the wide receiver position below 8K, who are you going to get to the most in this range? Because there aren't a lot of options. And for me, I'm just looking at this DK Metcalf news, and it's going to decide everything that I do on this slate. How are you kind of planning out the sub 8K range here? Let's just go 6K to 8K because Tyler Lockett at 6K, I would have an unbelievable amount of him as well.
Yup, it's Lockett, it's Cooper, and I think you can use Nacua as a pivot off of Kupp in certain constructions, but I don't have a lot of interest in DJ Moore with Bagent starting. Pittman is in a brutal matchup against a fierce Cleveland defense. Metcalf would be an awesome leverage play if active. We just don't have that news. And then Tampa Bay Atlanta is the worst game on the entire slate. So Godwin, Evans just overpriced. There's no, like, even if DK Metcalf is active, I think both Seattle receivers should be more expensive than Evans and Godwin this week. So just very, very expensive plays that are unnecessary unless you're playing the Millie Maker and you want to be the only guy with them.
That's fair. That's fair. Sub 6K. We're making great time here as well. Again, 33 minutes to go. We're in the middle of the wide receiver position. We'll round this out. We'll get to some questions at the very tail end of this after tight end, defense, and getting ourselves the heck up out of here to go watch some football on YouTube TV. Yeah. Or I don't know.
That's what I use.
That's what I use now too. It's taken over streaming. It is what it is. But we are looking at sub 6K. Hi, Christian Watson. Direct leverage off of Zay Flowers, although I still have some Zay Flowers in my life. I'm just a little bit below the field here. Again, not afraid of no wind. Jerry G, what am I doing? What is wrong with me? That's not going to happen. That's a complete error on my spreadsheet. I need to fix that. But definitely like Marquise Brown here. Bounce back spot for him. Really inefficient the last 2 weeks, but hey, getting targeted at a crazy clip. Double-digit targets in all but one of his last 5 games. That's good enough at 5,300 for me to play a lot of him. Terry McLaurin, I know you got talked to by Ben Rasa there, going up against this Giants defense. Just fine with that here as well. Who are some of your favorite 5K targets?
Yeah, man, I like a sneaky Sam Howell. So Terry McLaurin, I think, makes sense. This is a kind of a tough range. I think you have some excellent pivots. So you mentioned a few of them. I still think Zay is fine, especially I like Lamar a bit more than you. Zay is just fully emerged as their number one target, even over Andrews. He gets all the design stuff. But Watson, I think, is completely fine. Wide receiver 1 for Green Bay. Hinges a little bit on the health of Aaron Jones, who I think is their preferred option across like the pass game, everything, run game, obviously. But if he's limited in any capacity, Watson should be the main beneficiary, just could dominate targets in this spot. I like McLaurin as a pivot. Marquise Brown's going to be really owned. What do you think about this, man? He's been horrible, but the targets have been there, and I don't think it's his fault. Dobbs is throwing a ton inefficiently, so I'm kind of inclined to buy in on Marquise Brown. I think maybe we get under-owned Marquise Brown at least a little less than projections because he's been so bad and he's been so popular in previous weeks. Otherwise, Deontay Johnson, I think, is a great pivot too.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson, that's the guy that I'm kind of keying in on at 5K. I obviously like the Ram stack. I have a lot of Stafford. He's in my big lineup for the day. My one lineup to rule them all, one lineup to find them. Matt Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, run back Deontay Johnson. Let's have ourselves a day. Now, that could change because there are Jackson Smith and Jigba complications that get thrown into the mix. Tyler Lockett as well could very easily turn that into Geno Smith. Again, I will be late swapping. You should be late swapping. It's just a part of the game. You should do it. That's really all I have. But feeling pretty good about Deontay Johnson playing closer to a full allotment. I'm just going to say you should just project him for the full allotment to a certain extent and kind of pull back if you need to. But 11.5 is what we've got him projected for here at Stochastic today. That is just fine for me at 5K. Helps me do a lot with my lineups. And then you got Josh Palmer, 4,800, pulling quite a bit of ownership. Might be a little bit of leverage off of that if people are going to be shying away from a Deontay Johnson with any kind of injury concerns. And I understand them, but I just don't know how to analyze it. Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think he's playable even with DK Metcalf in case there's limitations. He's, as I've said multiple times throughout the show, would be the best tournament play on the entire slate if you end up having DK Metcalf out. So I will have a lot of some things set up here. So for a sub 5K perspective, things can change drastically for me in this entire range. But Kendrick Bourne is the one guy I wanted to ask you about because I expected him to be more popular here in the aftermath of Juju Smith-Schuster being ruled out. But it looks like when news comes in on Sunday, people just don't react to it nearly as much as something that drops on Friday that projections have a couple of days for people to let marinate. They might build lineups a little bit earlier. I don't think he's good, and I don't love the play in terms of like I want to get to a crazy amount of him, but like we just saw him targeted 11 times by Mac Jones. There's really nothing that they're going to be able to do outside of try to like come from behind here against the Bills at home. Is Kendrick Bourne at 4,400 in your portfolio? Because I'm still having a tough time figuring out what I want to do with him specifically.
Yeah, me too. It's very hard for me to figure this out. He's not a good player. No. And the offense is horrible.
Yep.
So it's the price is right though, and the volume's going to be there. So, I mean, would you be surprised if like Hunter Henry led the team in targets? He's going to be active. Mike Gesicki. My question is, how sticky is this? Like, do we think he's for sure the guy that gets all the targets? And I don't know. He's not good. So that's where I run into this problem where like I don't know if he's going to do this week in, week out, which is why I'm hesitant to buy in. Because you already have so much systemic risk from the Patriots just being a terrible team.
Yes. It's so gross. But I
for sure want Jackson Smith and Jigba over him. Not even close.
I wish this news had come out on Friday that he was just not going to get out of concussion protocol, Juju Smith-Schuster, so that Kendrick Bourne could be popular and we could fade him. But now we're running into the other issue where I think we're both on the same page. He's not a good football player, pretty inefficient, but like Devontae Parker is complete and total dust. Like
he might lead the team in targets.
I know. And it's just such a frustrating situation here. Tyquan Thornton really not on the field here a whole heck of a lot. DeMario Douglas, woof to him as well. You go through some of these route trees and it's just like, okay. I have to play Kendrick Bourne, right?
No, here's what I would rather do. Play Jackson Smith and Jigba. You have a late window, and then you've tons of swaps. I mean, like in the late window alone, at Kendrick Bourne's price or cheaper, you can get, this is if DK Metcalf plays and everything goes terribly wrong and against you. So you faded Kendrick Bourne. He probably puts up his normal 4 for 40. They don't score because they're going to score 3 points. Then DK Metcalf plays. Okay, Jackson Smith and Jigba's price. You can leave him in if you want to. He had a huge uptick in routes last week. Or you can swap to these players that are all Kendrick Bourne's price or cheaper. Tutu Atwell, Kadarius Toney, Michael Wilson, Quentin Johnston, Jaden Reed, Marvin Mims, Rondale Moore, Sky Moore, MVS, Jake Bobo would be affected by this, but I mean, he's down there too.
Could you just list off the entire player pool quick? That'd be cool.
Dude, that's the point.
I know. I love you for the point. The point is well received. I will not play Kendrick Bourne anymore. Okay. That I'm done.
No, I'm not saying
shamed.
You can't play Kendrick Bourne. You can, but like my strategy is.
I was thinking about it again. And as somebody who's only talked about late swap this entire program, I'm embarrassed. I apologize to my family, and may they love me despite my faults.
I'm not trying to get.
No, I'm making fun of myself. It's fine.
I don't think he's a bad play, but I would much rather have Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I think even if DK Metcalf plays, I would still pick Jackson Smith and Jigba.
I think I would too. So that kind of helps it out. Sounds like Steinbrenner and Seinfeld. That's so good. You didn't get that reference, but it's funny. It's funny. Trust me. The ultimate.
Oh, I didn't even, well, Wandale's not in the late slate, but I see people in the chat talking about Wandale, but he's not swappable, but he's down there too.
Yeah, he's not swappable for me. Again, there's going to be no priority sub 4,500 for me besides Jackson Smith and Jigba. No matter what, I will be playing him, and then I will have an infinite amount in the event that you have no DK Metcalf, and my entire day will hinge on the former Ohio State University star who, well, he didn't really play last year, but that's beside the point. Got dinged up, right?
And 1/3 of his production the previous year came in the bowl game when Utah had so many guys opt out that he was running routes against a running back.
But in his defense, didn't Ohio State sit out everybody besides him?
Well, he was an underclassman. I guess he could have sat out. He couldn't go to league.
Yeah, he showed out. He was an absolute monster for that game. I think Utah still won, right?
Yeah, it was an awesome game. One of the best college games of all time. But it was
I was at one of the best college games of all time. 2020, Wisconsin, Jonathan Taylor going up against the Ducks. Oregon got to go to the Rose Bowl for that one. Justin Herbert, I believe 4 rushing touchdowns. Just put the team on your back, though.
That was a good game. When you said one of the best games of all time, and then you included Wisconsin, I was.
You're out. You checked out.
That was a good game.
Jonathan Taylor was insane.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you run the ball 30 times into the back of your O-line, you're going to look pretty good. Unless you're Braylon Allen, then you won't.
I love the subtle college football day after digs. I'm here for it. Guys, 4K of you here in the chat, kicking it. Smash that like button for Matt because he's funny as shit. That's really all I have for you. But also, I have something else if you're in one of these 6 lovely states: Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, and Colorado. Let me repeat: Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, and Colorado. It's $5 into $150 in bonus bets at Bet365, a new sports book here in the States. It's not a new sports book in general. They are worldwide. They are renowned. They are fantastic. And hey, they're going to come to other states here soon. But if you're in Kentucky, Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia, Iowa, or Colorado, you simply go to the link that Jordan Klein is posting here into chat. You go to the link below. It's in the video description box below as well. You deposit $5 or more. You bet $5 on anything, and you're going to get $150 in bonus bets from Bet365. It's really as simple as that. I don't really need to add anything else to it. It's $150 in bonus bets from $5. Just do that. It's only if you're 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. And if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. My friends, I want to go to the lineup generator here as we start out the tight end position, because I think there's a couple of interesting things to talk about. And if you're not familiar with the lineup generator, it's $14.95 per week to try that thing out. It's going to pay for itself over time because, well, there's primetime slates. You can use it for showdown. You can use it for everything. And the showdown part of the tool is incredibly cool as well. You're going to want to check that out. Everybody's going to want to check it out for Miami, Philadelphia tonight. I would get behind the paywall for that one. Yeah, $15 in order to fire up lineups for the main slate. And then for that showdown slate tonight, going to be a lot of fun. But DraftKings, with some of these run backs here, I think there's a couple of interesting trends, I think, in the lineup generator, because what they're basically doing here at Stochastic is they're taking the pool of lineups that are created in our Sims product, and they're taking a lot of your input where you can kind of throw in the 1-man stacks, 2-man stacks, but then they're just doing it in such a way where you don't have to think about anything else. They're going to give you positive EV lineups, and you don't have to think twice. It's a really cool, interesting thing. But I think the tight end position, it's always fascinating to me here. I'm going to have Jordan just run some two stacks quick and fire it up here, because I want you to see what happens here at the tight end position in the contrarian lineups. You can go contrarian. That sounds lovely. Crushing the game, Jordan Klein. Save this because there are some two tight end lineups showing up a lot more today. I think Wanta, Fanta. You got Noah Fant that could end up being a piece of this slate that I want to get to a little bit more of. You get a lot of Travis Kelce if you're building out by hand. You're not getting any Travis Kelce when you're putting in the Sims tool here. Oh, wait, you are. That's what I'm getting at. 8K. Travis Kelce is the highest owned player we have whenever you run stuff with the lineup generator right now. One, Matt Gajewski, do you agree with it? And two, how are you handling Travis Kelce on today's slate?
Yeah, I'm playing a fair amount of Travis Kelce. I think I'll be a little overweight to the field on him. You mentioned the ways to get to him. You play a cheap quarterback. I think this mid-range of running backs is pretty strong with Kenneth Walker at the top. You can play Walker and Kelce pretty easily. And then we have a lot of really good receivers. You put Jackson Smith and Jigba in your lineup, and suddenly things open up for you. So good amount of Kelce. He's just the only real separator at the tight end position in today's rendition of the NFL. So he should be in your lineups if you can get to him. It's Kelce or punt for me.
Kelce or punt. I like that. It's a lot of Kelce, and then we can do some punting down here. Brought up Noah Fant. Think that he's a decent enough play here. Musgrave is pulling a ton of ownership here. How are you handling him? I guess he's probably the next part of the tight end position we should cover. Luke Musgrave for the Green Bay Packers.
I have a decent amount of him. I just think you got to be careful with how you use him because of how owned he is. Again, I'm playing a lot of the expensive QBs, so that gives me more leverage at that position. But most of my tight ends outside of Kelce are in this range. Njoku, I think, offers a little bit of leverage. He's coming in slightly. But it's a pretty healthy range overall with pivots. And I mean, any of these guys, you fall into the end zone, you're paying off value. So I would just be careful with how you use Musgrave, how you use Njoku. But I made sure to be cognizant of their presence in my lineups, if that makes sense. Made sure to have a contrarian piece, a leverage piece somewhere else.
It definitely does. Take that. Eric thinks Fant's a good play. Not because of what he did in previous games against Arizona. He's a good play in the event that you have no DK Metcalf. And, well, I think maybe you see a lot of teams that they don't necessarily just bring in the fourth wide receiver, fifth wide receiver off the bench and utilize them in some kind of a capacity there. That would be Jake Bobo. Yeah, that's a real thing that I just said. Going up against Arizona, it would be nice to be able to get a piece of like 3,200 or 3K completely underutilized and have him on the field a bunch. But more than likely, it becomes Fant and then some combination of Colby Parkinson and Will Dissly where they just rotate in and go 12. We saw that with the Vikings. That was definitely coming to fruition there. Everybody wanted to chase after Powell the other week, and that was silly. And now you're going to look at that kind of being what I believe Seattle will end up doing. You're only one real pass catcher out of that grouping, right? It's only Fant. Like Parkinson and Dissly don't really got it.
No, a lot of them are used for blocking. I still don't love Fant. He doesn't have like that locked in role. Honestly, Bobo wouldn't be that bad. Don't you think? He's like not a bad player.
Where did he play at?
UCLA.
I love when you do that. It's the best. DTR confirmed not good at football now after being confirmed good at football during the preseason. I have no idea. Again, one game sample sizes. They're going to be noisy. Somebody does not suck based on one football game. But yeah, Jake Bobo. I think he's just the one name to have out there. Just then we can clip this on social if it ends up working out. Jake Bobo, yeah, get like 2% of him in your 150 in the event that you have no DK Metcalf out there in case he is rotated in. I really know nothing other than he is the number 4 there in Seattle. And I think he's who we had projected. I just kind of wanted to think of what else you could possibly mine out of Seattle if you get no DK Metcalf. But let's round out the tight end position here. We'll jump to defense. We'll take some questions. I think we've kept up with the super chats pretty easily here. That's for sure. But who are the tight ends you're getting to the most? Because it embarrasses me to say Trey McBride is somebody who I'm playing more than I should have right now. I mean, he's in the afternoon window, which helps, but like, what am I doing?
Yeah, there's a lot of good tight ends. Well, not a lot. There's a couple good tight ends in the
there
afternoon
you go.
window. Musgrave is included in that. So that's another reason why I'm playing some Musgrave. He just gives you some flexibility with your lineup. Just having that extra roster spot in the event that Metcalf is in or out, it allows you to work things around a little more. So that's why I like playing some afternoon defenses, some of these afternoon tight ends. But aside from these players, if I'm going up to like the Waller-Andrews range, I would rather play Laporta. He's the only tight end up in that range that's actually shown a pulse this year. Other than that, like I'm not playing the 4K guys, even Pitts at 4K coming off the 2 good games. They need to be getting clobbered for him to do anything. That's the worst game on the slate. So not really too interesting to me. I'm with you. I would rather go all the way down, throw some darts on Michael Mayer and Trey McBride. Mayer's had an ascending role in this offense. Unfortunately, you got Hoyer throwing him the ball, but they spent a lot of draft capital on this guy. He's now playing season highs in snaps. Could drop down, I guess, but I think there's a significant talent gap between him and Hooper. The Bears definitely don't scare you. And then McBride outsnapped Zach Ertz finally. The routes were still in Zach Ertz's favor by 1, but still 2,600. They ran a fair amount of 12 personnel. You could play him. Other than that, it's kind of just pivots. I would maybe look at the Bills guys. Don't feel good about either, but it's an explosive offense that you could maybe target. Pretty bad tight end slate.
Pretty darn bad tight end slate. That is for sure. This is this is gross. Want to make one update here. 15 minutes to go. I ended up with more Deshaun Watson than what I'm proud to admit. I think he's going to end up being pretty low owned as I'm looking across at different projections and looking at our stuff here right now. He is a quarterback that's starting to pop up a little bit more for me. Just another guy sub 6K in that early window. Not trying to go nuts with it because I do prefer the Stafford, Geno Smith, all of the afternoon quarterbacks, but wanted to at least throw that in if you're building out lineups here now. I think that that's also a little bit of an upgrade for Amari Cooper, who's somebody who's starting to sneak into my lineups a little bit too. Confirmed good at football, very good at route running, made people look silly last week. That was a wild win, that's for sure, with PJ Walker at the helm, but definitely an upgrade if Deshaun Watson's healthy. If he's not, well, these lineups are dead, so that's fun. But definitely going to be something that I throw in there. 15 minutes to go. Let's get to defense, my friend. We'll take some questions, and then we'll get ourselves the heck up out of here. Let's check in on OwnersBox too while we're at it. Let's take a look at the overlay situation there if we can, Mr. Jordan Klein. How are we doing? Again, 70% full. So still 30% away from filling with 14 minutes to go. Ridiculous stuff there. And that 100K kickoff, 20K to first. Beautiful stuff there over at OwnersBox. So like I would be doing that before anything else. Get your DraftKings lineups in, get your FanDuel lineups in. But again, you sign up at the link over at OwnersBox, get yourself access to everything here at Stochastic Plus Platinum for a month. For a week it is, that you'll be able to have everything utilized there for a week to sign up and try out when you try out OwnersBox. Again, that Sims package, that is great stuff there. You can build some lineups very, very quickly. And again, you know what's the most positive EV part about the entire thing? It's the overlay. It just is. So I would take advantage of it for sure. Let's do defense. I'm pulling up my stuff here yet again here. Highest owned defenses are on the board. Seahawks, Giants, Commanders, Patriots. Weird to see the Patriots up there, that's for sure. But 2,100 does allow you to do a lot. And Buffalo, well, if something happens there, fluky pick sixes, you never know. 2,100 allows you to get a lot of studs into your lineup, so I get it, I suppose. Who are the highest owned defenses for you, Matt?
Highest owned defenses for me are Kansas City and New York, the Giants. Kansas City, pretty good defense. The Chargers play extremely fast and drop back a ton. So for defenses, it's not always about who you're facing. That does matter. Like facing Brian Hoyer or Bajent would be awesome. But it's also about opportunities to create turnovers and sacks, which the Chiefs defense will have plenty of those today. New York and Washington, man, this is a fun game. The two worst offensive lines in football. You've got Sam Howell breaking records for sacks taken. New York doesn't have a great pass rush, but Sam Howell finds his way into sacks regardless. On the other side, my third most owned defense are the Commanders. They actually have a good pass rush, and the New York Giants might be starting you and me on their offensive line next week. They are losing bodies like crazy. It's insane. Other than that, have interest in some of the good defenses. The Browns, of course, the lead pass rush, very strong defense there. Think you can look to that Bears-Raiders game. Both quarterbacks are just absolutely downright horrific. You could see a lot of turnovers. More interest in the Bears, honestly. The Raiders are kind of egregiously priced. But yeah, that's where I'm at with defense right now.
I'm with you on pretty much everything that you said. I'm definitely going to be playing the New York Football Giants, going up against Washington and Sam Howell. There have just been some massive defensive games going up against them. I'm highlighting, of course, the Buffalo spot. And do the Giants have that kind of a defense? No, but again, it's just going to be a spot where it could be feast or famine. I think it's a sneaky spot to just play some more Sam Howell and then play some more of that Giants defense on the other side too. I'm getting my lineups uploaded so that we can start answering some questions, getting to anything that you guys might want to know here in the last 10 minutes leading up to lock. I remember last year we did a couple of like rapid fire deals where we would just take questions, you guys fire them in, and we had like a clock going down. I guess we always have the clock going down now, but something of that capacity where if you guys have quick answered stuff, if you want answers quickly on anything, you can fire it up there in the chat. Can you build a lineup? Do we want to build a lineup, Jordan Klein? I don't think we want to build a lineup here right now. Let's go through, though, our highest exposed players at each position here. I'm pulling back up my stuff here. Highest owned quarterbacks, top 3 for each position.
Okay, so I'm doing small and large field. Do you want my large field pool or small field?
Let's just do your favorite quarterback for each one then, or favorite play for each one. Favorite large field quarterback, favorite small field quarterback.
Favorite large field is Lamar. Favorite small field is Geno. So for reference, I don't think you need to get as crazy or contrarian in small field. That's why going back to some of the like chalkier pieces there.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford, probably my answer for both, but Jordan Love as well. Talked about him from a large field perspective. I have much of the young man from Cal. Is that where he went?
Jordan Love, he went to Utah State.
I love you. Kenneth Walker, best large field and small field play, period, full stop for me. Kenneth Walker, really, really good stuff. But if you want to get different with me, welcome to the Aaron Jones fan club for one day and one day only.
Yup, same.
Wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, from small field perspective, pretty difficult to get away from there, but I'm just going to circle highlight everything that has to do with Seattle. Give me Tyler Lockett, give me Jackson Smith and Jigba. Going to be massive parts of my lineups, especially if Metcalf is out.
Agree with you. For large field, I like Diggs as a pivot off of the Kupp and the expensive players, but small field, it's going to be Seattle all day.
Yep, and I like Mr. Adams as well. Mr. Devontae Adams, good stuff. Tight end, Travis Kelce. You can get to him today. It is not all that cost prohibitive. Gives you some late swappability. Has extra salary attached in there at that spot. You can react to all the tight ends and what they do there in that early portion of games. And if nobody goes off, I will play a lot of Travis Kelce. I can promise you that, because the floor ceiling combination is insane. Shout out to Sam Laporta, though. This is somebody that, nobody's going to be rostering here today. And I think if somebody's going to go out and beat Travis Kelce at the position that's not named Mark Andrews, he feels like a pretty prime candidate to do it. Sitting in a weird range at 5,300 in this early window of games. I've got right around 12%, 13%. So I'll throw him in for large field tournaments. How about you, Matt?
That was going to be my large field guy. Small field is Musgrave for me. Njoku, he's close behind.
Yeah, he's close behind. We've got, and defense, we just covered that. So for me, going to be, I kind of have a smattering of the entire board, that's for sure. But Giants, Ravens, Chiefs.
Giants and Chiefs for me.
Yeah, they're good stuff. All right, we got some questions here. Pickens or Pittman Jr.? Give me PPR or give me site, DK, FanDuel, something like that. That's going to make it a little bit easier to be able to answer some of these. James Magruder, $1.99 super chat. Palmer over London in my single entry? Yes, a million times yes.
Yes.
Let's see where the other ones go here. Don't fade Diggs unless you don't like money. Well, I'm not going to full fade Diggs, but I'm not going to be at the field. That's for sure. Go McBride. I'm with you. We're disgusting people. Pickens or Pittman Jr.? Definitely going to be Pittman Jr. by a mile for me.
I agree.
Patriots defense. Yeah. 2,100 gets you a lot of access. Best cash QB for DraftKings.
Probably Geno or Deshaun or Geno, depending on your construction. I'd say whoever you land on with whatever your salary range is left. I'm comfortable with both. I'm not playing cash, just for reference.
Yeah, it would be Geno for me no matter what. And then there's like the nice bonus where you're going to be reacting to the DK Metcalf news in cash, and it would be nice to have Geno with two of the pass catchers, because the floor is just outrageous at their prices for Lockett and for Smith and Jigba. We've talked about that multiple times. Is this a good spot for Waddle? That'll be in the evening window. How excited are you for tonight's slate?
Oh, it's a sick game. Maybe the best primetime slate we've had all year. It's going to be so good.
You say that now. And then you know what happens? 13-10. Like, it's just...
What, do you not appreciate good defense, Eric?
I appreciate good football, of which we've had none on a primetime slate like in forever. So, with like one freaking good game here. And yes, we've got Jordan Klein here. Where's your Miami hat? You got to have a Miami jersey or something. You're a Miami fan, no? He's going to go get it. Okay, that's important because I want him to say goodbye to the people here today. And he literally just left. This is awesome. It's very quiet here in this Zoom room. Happy Tight Ends Day. Is that a real thing that's actually happening? Foreman, Rice, Stevenson need to for anything there. Favorite place for Owner's Box today? For the first one, by the way, Stevenson and Foreman. Rashi Rice is pretty volatile. Favorite place for Owner's Box today? Talked about it a little bit earlier. Jahmyr Gibbs, as much as I do not want to play him on DK today, I would have a ton of him over on Owner's Box. So that is one specifically that I think really sticks out to me when I build out over at Owner's Box like I did before the show here. 100 yards and a touchdown. The people must know who is going to be your pick. I've obviously thrown out Devontae Adams at like 4 or 5% ownership. He could be even lower than that. Who is your 100 yards and a touchdown?
You can't just pick the chalk.
Devontae Adams? It's not chalk.
Well, he's an elite
How about
player.
Aaron Jones? Then
I'm picking Cooper Kupp.
Oh my God, you're so... Jackson Smith and Jigba. How about that? 100 and a touchdown.
That's good. I'm going to pick Christian Watson then.
Okay. Well, I like Christian Watson a lot.
Oh, actually, I'm going to pick Josh Jacobs.
That's the chalk, you dum-dum.
I know. I was making fun of you. So someone in the chat brought up something. James Cook. I forgot to talk about him. I think he's a pretty interesting leverage play without Damian Harris. Latavius he'll still play a little bit, but I did increase my exposure to James Cook when we got that news.
Okay. I did not. I remain fervent that I'm not going to play James Cook this season. I don't know why I attached myself to that wagon, but that's just something that I've apparently done.
That's
it's
tough
just because
he is a wagon.
He is a wagon. Florida State, not Florida State. Did he play?
That's
Florida
his
State
brother.
Yeah, sorry.
His brother. He was at Georgia.
Georgia, that's right. In the 44-man backfield where they only produced guys, and apparently Zamir White just never going to see a field though, because I
feel
don't
bad
understand.
for him. He had like a devastating injury when he was a freshman, and he never really got his explosion back.
It's a bummer because he, I was excited about him until he didn't see a field because Josh Jacobs is apparently just that guy for them. But whatever, that's a conversation for a different day, a different show, not this one. Bots coming in hard, yes. Oh, Squeak Diesel, $2. Are you playing any running backs from the Rams? Can you let's break down the running back situation one more time for the people. Again, Darrell Henderson is not in the player pool, but he's attached to a quote from Sean McVay where he said, quote, I expect him and Royce Freeman to do a lot of the running. What do you think about the Rams backfield? Because I definitely don't want to roster anybody.
Same. So Royce Freeman's at least been there. They elevated him from the practice squad. And then Darrell Henderson, obviously there's familiarity from previous years. Like less than a calendar year ago, he was leading the backfield in carries. So he has a ton of familiarity recently. Otherwise, Zach Evans, he's the rookie. He's been on their team for a while. They seem to hate him. I don't know why. But then they also signed Gaskin off, I believe, Minnesota's practice squad.
Oh, that's cool.
So we could see as many as 4 guys touch the ball. You got to see who they have. I mean, anytime you could have the lead back not in the player pool, it's pretty tough.
Bad attitude. I have a good attitude. I was just saying that I don't.
You might be talking about me.
Oh,
which
no,
I could see why someone would say that.
I couldn't.
My communication style is pretty direct.
Jordan Klein's back here with the Miami jersey. He looks beautiful. You should say hi to the people for sure. Rocking the blue. I mean, that blue, if I weren't a Vikings fan, which again is probably a negative quality about myself, I would 100% be a Miami fan purely because of the jersey. I mean, that thing is beautiful. Those whites too. Oh.
He was talking about Zach Evans, not me or you. But that's funny. He's had that kind of, I don't know, tag if you want, since all the way back in college. He's been in trouble for like that stuff and gotten benched for, I guess, his coachability.
For his coachability. Yeah, that's not good.
He's a 5-star recruit. He was electric, but then he just played last year. He got beat up by Quinshon Judkins, who's future wagon.
He's electric. Boogie, woogie, woogie. It's good stuff. It's a good way to get ourselves the heck up out of here. 2 minutes to go. Again, like a minute to go here before we get to lock. Make sure you have your lineups in because that would suck if you didn't. Make sure you think about late swap. Just to repeat, there are 4 games with the highest totals all showing up in that afternoon window. I want to prioritize those. I want to prioritize my lineups revolving around Jackson Smith and Jigba Tyler Lockett, especially if you have DK Metcalf out. Don't think that they're complete zeros in the event that he's in. He could be limited. Lots of ways that can still be all right. Don't think enough people will be reacting to that news. So be one of the people who does react to it. I ended up actually getting to, I got to fix this quick because this is Kendrick Bourne. Actually, you know what? It's just one share in like the $3. That's fine. Good. I just wanted to make sure that wasn't one of my million lineups or one of my $33 lineups. There we go. We are all set to rock here on this end. Matt Gajewski, Jordan Klein. Make sure you guys give some love to them. Smash that like button. Any final words for the people as we get ourselves the heck up out of here, Matt?
Good luck to you guys. Thank you for being here every Sunday morning. It's a pleasure being able to speak to you all. And I look forward to doing it again next week.
Can't wait, my guy. Great work today, per usual. Great work by Jordan Klein as well. Go follow him at Jordan D. Klein on Twitter. Yeah, I'll give him a special shout out. Go follow Matt Gajewski, Matt_Gajewski on the Twitters.com. Great stuff. Go follow me at Eric Lindquist if you're so inclined. I'm going to be giving you MLB updates. Yeah, MLB. We got a massive Game 6 here in the baseball streets, Houston, Texas. Going to be a fun one to watch there. But until next time, till week 8, best of luck. See you then.